Chapter 138. After accompanying Zhao Xueqing around Yang City for 2 to 3 days, Jiang Tian managed to gather all the materials needed for the array formation. Soon, he returned to Linzhou City and started to set up the spirit gathering array in King's No. 1 villa. However, this time, Jiang Tian brought along Hong Yi, Su Wenjie, and a few other southern faction feng shui practitioners to help him. These spell masters were more than happy to help. They even felt that it was a great honor. With their help, the Qi gathering array was completed after a week of hard work, and all the array materials were used up. When the box was opened, Gungjin iron essence, azurewood cauldron, frost crystal, white ape's demonic core, and dark yellow clay pottery were displayed in front of everyone. The invisible elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth gathered together, exuding surging energy waves. These 5 treasures can be used as the eye of the Qi gathering array. Activate the dermic powers. Jiang Tian looked at the 5 elements that he had gathered with great difficulty, and heaved a long sigh. Under everyone's expectant gaze, Jiang Tian inserted the 5 treasures into the eye of the array one by one, and inserted the auxiliary materials that contained the runes of the array. Immediately, wung wung wung, the ground trembled slightly as the spirit gathering formation was activated. Pillars of light emerged from the 5 eye of the array, and shot into the sky. Gold, green, white, red, and yellow. They were 100 meters long and looked like giant lanterns. At the same time, streaks of qi gathered from all directions like tentacles and enveloped the entire mansion. Shocking. This is too shocking. This is truly an earth-shattering array. I didn't expect Master Kang's array formation skills to be so profound and powerful. Hong Yi, Su Wenjie, Tao Fengshi, and the other spell masters of the southern faction were stunned and could not believe their eyes. Then more and more white qi gathered and enveloped the entire mansion like clouds, making the mansion look like an immortal palace. The qi accumulated so much that it formed raindrops and dripped down. The qi is like mist and condensed into rain. Oh my god! This is comparable to the Taoist temple of the ancient immortals. Hong Yi, Su Wenjie, and the others took a deep breath and felt refreshed. Their pores were relaxed, and their cells were jumping with joy. I never thought that we would be able to see such a great formation in our lifetime. It's like a miracle. At this moment, all the spell masters of the southern sect were so excited that tears were streaming down their faces, and their bodies were trembling non-stop. Thank you for your hard work these past few days. Each of you will collect a bottle of spirit liquid as compensation for your hard work. Jiang Tian pointed at a row of jade bottles prepared in advance and said with a smile. Thank you, Master Kong. Hong Ye, Su Wenjie, and the others could no longer hold back the reverence in their hearts. One by one, they knelt on the ground and worshipped Jiang Tian. This spirit qi water could be said to be priceless. It could not be bought even with millions or tens of millions. It could help them improve their cultivation once. After they left with the spiritual water, Yi Zichen and the others took the spiritual water and left. Zhao Xueqing walked out from the inner room. Her beautiful eyes sparkled as she smiled and said, Jiang Tian, is your formation completed? She also felt that this formation was magical. Being in it, she felt refreshed and energized. It's done. Jiang Tian nodded slightly, and a trace of relief appeared on his face. He smiled and said, Xueqing, tonight, I can teach you a set of cultivation techniques. Okay. Zhao Xueqing's beautiful eyes sparkled. She was excited and cheered. She did not want to become very strong. It was enough for her to be able to fight side by side with Jiang Tian. Qinger, before we start cultivating, I have to observe your body constitution carefully. Jiang Tian pondered for a moment and said seriously, only after I confirm your body constitution can I choose the most suitable cultivation technique for you. There were many common cultivation techniques that were suitable for everyone. However, these cultivation techniques could not unleash a person's special potential. Jiang Tian had cultivated for 10,000 years, and was well versed in all cultivation techniques. He had more than billions of cultivation techniques in his hands. However, since he was going to bring his beloved wife into the world of cultivation, he had to choose the most suitable cultivation technique for her. He wanted her to reach the top and become the supreme beauty, the empress of the celestial world. Then how do I observe? Take a look. Zhao Xueqing smiled sweetly, her beautiful eyes rippling like waves, looking innocent and unaffected. Qing'er, you have to take off your clothes. I still have to feel your bones. Jiang Tian coughed and looked a little embarrassed. Ah. Hearing this, Zhao Xueqing's beautiful face blushed, her clear and beautiful eyes were covered with a layer of mist, and a trace of shyness flashed past her eyes. She pinched Jiang Tian and said bashfully, Hubby, are you trying to take advantage of me? Qing'er, I have divine sense. I can see your body constitution. However, the body constitution not only covers your muscles and blood vessels, but also your bones. Only by sensing it thoroughly can I make the best assessment. The choice of cultivation technique is very important. It will affect your cultivation for the rest of your life. You can't afford to make any mistakes. Jiang Tian said seriously. Oh, I see. Then let's go to the bedroom? Seeing that Jiang Tian was serious, Zhao Xueqing believed him. However, she felt a little disappointed in her heart. The bedroom was elegantly furnished. There was a bouquet of delicate roses in the vase, which was filled with a faint fragrance. The curtains were drawn and the bright yellow light shone down. It was very warm, but also seemed to be a little ambiguous. Zhao Xueqing bit her lower lip and hesitated for a moment. In the end, she still went into the bathroom. The sound of water splashing could be heard. Jiang Tian sat on the sofa with his back facing the bathroom. He was a little uneasy in his heart, like a cat scratching an itch. The bathroom door creaked open. Jiang Tian felt a soft and gentle touch on his back. A pair of snow-white arms wrapped around him from behind and gently hugged him. Although there was a layer of clothes between them, Jiang Tian could still clearly feel the soft and plump body. Moreover, he could also smell the fragrance of an orchid. Jiang Tian was a little angry in his heart. This was not because his Dao heart was not firm. In fact, he had been in the cultivation world for tens of thousands of years. His heart could be said to be as firm as steel, and as stable as a rock. However, his feelings for Zhao Xueqing were too deep. Hearing the soft sobbing, Jiang Tian was shocked. He held her little hand and turned around. He said gently, Xueqing, what's wrong? I'm scared. Zhao Xueqing was wrapped in a bath towel, revealing her jade-like shoulders. After the steam evaporated, her originally delicate and fair face became even more crystal clear. She was incomparably beautiful. However, her eyes were filled with sadness and worry. There were sparkling tears in her eyes. Why? Jiang Tian asked. Zhao Xueqing said in a trembling voice, according to what you said, everyone's bone structure is different. Not everyone is suitable for cultivation. If my bone structure is not good, then what should I do? Qing'er, you don't have to worry about this. Jiang Tian smiled. He held her beautiful face and kissed it. He said with a firm face, even if your bone structure is not good, I have thousands of ways to improve it. As long as your Dao heart is firm. Hubby, you're actually so amazing. Zhao Xueqing was overjoyed at first, then her eyes became hazy. There was a layer of intoxicating charm on her face, and there was a hint of shyness between her brows. However, she gently clenched her teeth and whispered in Jiang Tian's ear. Then I'll show you now. Then Zhao Xueqing gently untied the bath towel. Suddenly, the bath towel fell to the ground. A beautiful and delicate body was presented in full view in front of Jiang Tian. The beauty in front of him had a face full of shyness. She was at a loss. Her jade-like arms were gently covering the important parts of her body. Her figure was curvaceous and exquisite, her skin was as white as jade, and her waist was slender and soft. Especially her pair of plump peaks that undulated even more. Under her slight trembling, dazzling waves rippled out, making her even more beautiful and soul-stirring, causing Jiang Tian to scratch his heart and liver. Qing'er, you're so beautiful. Jiang Tian's heart was about to jump out of his throat. He could not control himself at all. He hugged her tightly in his arms. He had been cultivating for tens of thousands of years, and there were countless seductive demonic women and holy fairies who tried to show off their beauty in front of him. However, Jiang Tian had always been thinking about his beloved wife, and had never had his heart moved by them. It could be said that for tens of thousands of years, he had always bitterly missed Xueqing. He hoped to embrace and love her. His longing was like a disaster. He did not stop for a moment. Today, his beautiful wife was presented in front of him. How could Jiang Tian control himself? Hubby. Zhao Xueqing let out a soft cry as if she was talking in her sleep, but in the next moment, she became as docile as a pool of water, completely obedient. She did not have the slightest idea of her own, and allowed Jiang Tian to caress her delicate body that was as white as a scallion. Jiang Tian's heart was burning. He placed his beloved wife on the bed covered with rose petals, starting from his beloved wife's lips, then down her neck, and then to her chest. He kissed her all the way down. Qing'er's body started to tremble. However, in the end, she could not help but gently twist. Her face seemed to be smeared with a layer of rouge. Even the skin on her neck was faintly red. Her pair of eyes were half closed, and her gaze was blurred. It was as if she had already lost consciousness. However, her pair of small hands were still tightly holding onto Jiang Tian's arm. No. At the last moment, Jiang Tian seemed to have shivered and suddenly stopped. Qing'er was so shy that she did not dare to look at him. She only hugged Jiang Tian's neck with both hands, and buried her head in his neck. She said in a soft voice, "Hubby, take me. I am your wife. I originally belonged to you. Don't wait for your name to shake the world. Don't wait for wealth and glory. No, Qing'er, it's not because of this." Jiang Tian tried his best to calm himself down. He let go of his wife's body and said with a smile, "There are many body constitutions that require a virgin body to cultivate. I'm afraid that I'll hold you back. Let's wait and see." "Oh, so it's like this," Zhao Xueqing pouted and rolled her eyes at Jiang Tian. Her face was filled with disappointment. It was as if she was a flower bud that had just received the blessing of rain and dew. Before it could fully bloom, it had stopped. How strange. Jiang Tian immediately used his divine sense to examine her body. But at this moment he felt a splitting headache and his body trembled. Seeing Jiang Tian's pale face, Zhao Xueqing frowned and cried out in alarm. She reached out to support Jiang Tian. "What's wrong?" Jiang Tian was sweating as he muttered to himself. It can't be that kind of physique, right? Just now, when he had peeked into Zhao Xueqing's root bone, he had felt an enormous pull, like his divine sense was about to be swallowed up. Moreover, she was clearly made of flesh and blood. But her body was as vast as the sea of stars, as complex and deep as a black hole that seemed capable of swallowing everything. Coupled with the feeling of being drained of strength when he was combing through Zhao Xueqing's meridians, he couldn't help but think of a terrifying physique that was 1 in 10,000 in the cultivation world. The immortal body of the stainless phoenix. Chapter 139. In this regard, Jiang Tian had an image of a sponge physique. This kind of physique was known for its extreme void and powerful absorption ability. It could swallow everything, bear all things, and smelt it into cultivation. 10,000 years ago in the Nine Clouds continent, there was a Fuyao empress who had this physique. She once led the Xiaohua Empire and swept across millions of light years of starfields, shocking an era. This physique also had a fatal flaw. That was, powerful cultivation could not form an attack. It was like a sponge. As long as there was no external force, it could not squeeze out the water contained. "Qing'er, don't worry, I'll look again." Thinking of this, Jiang Tian was also a little flustered, but he forced a smile and comforted his nervous wife. Once again he condensed his consciousness into threads and tentacles and probed into Qing'er's body, carefully examining it. This time the exploration took a full quarter of an hour. Jiang Tian even felt that his consciousness was about to be swallowed by her body. This was clearly a body of flesh and blood, but the inside was so vast and boundless. A meridian was like a great river surging endlessly. A piece of blood qi was like the clouds in the sky covering the sky and the sun. Even a small cell was as complex and vast as a planet, all-encompassing myriad of phenomena. Jiang Tian's surging consciousness was pulled extremely thin, like a cicada's wing, like a silk thread. It was about to collapse, but it was still unable to see the full picture of this physique. There was a sharp pain in his sea of consciousness. Jiang Tian quickly withdrew his consciousness, only to find that the back of his clothes was soaked with cold sweat. Jiang Tian's face was pale, his whole body was weak, and his eyes were dull as he sat there. Husband, are you okay? Zhao Xueqing's eyes flashed with a trace of worry. She took a wet towel and gently wiped Jiang Tian's sweat. I'm fine. Jiang Tian's tone was a bit powerless and sorrowful. His eyes were empty, unable to focus. At this time, Jiang Tian was unwilling to admit it, but he had to admit that Qing'er actually had the pure phoenix immortal body, which was hard to come by in 10,000 years. Hubby, can I cultivate? Wrapping herself in a towel, Zhao Xueqing looked at Jiang Tian worriedly. Her body was trembling as she felt uneasy. Your physique is very strange. Jiang Tian swallowed his saliva with difficulty and said in a hoarse voice. Although the truth was cruel, Jiang Tian still had to say it. After listening to Jiang Tian's narration, Zhao Xueqing felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She was completely stunned. After a long time, Qing'er smiled sadly. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tears as she said in a trembling voice, You mean I can't become the same person as you? In theory, yes. Jiang Tian lowered his head, his expression solemn. Zhao Xueqing's pretty face was deathly pale, and she couldn't even stand steadily. Qing'er, don't be sad. I will definitely think of a way. Jiang Tian hurriedly supported her. Zhao Xueqing shook her head, trying to control her tears, but big drops still fell down. She said in a trembling voice, I don't want to be a waste. I don't want to be a burden to you. I want to fight side by side with you. Yes, Empress Fu Yao. Jiang Tian sighed for a while. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. He frowned and said in a low voice, Empress Fu Yao also has this kind of physique, but why did she become the celestial emperor of a generation and sweep through an era? Yes, you just said that she is very strong too. Zhao Xueqing also suddenly became excited. She saw a glimmer of hope. When Jiang Tian ascended to the continent of the 9 clouds, Empress Fu Yao was already a figure from 10,000 years ago. At that time, she had already fallen, but there were still many records and legends about her. Jiang Tian stood up and walked back and forth. He grabbed his hair and sank into the memories of the past. I remember that little bastard Ren Mingming in the continent of the 9 clouds told me that she used a kind of spiritual grass called the Empress Flower to refine pills and evolve her bones. Zhao Xueqing stared blankly at Jiang Tian. After returning, Jiang Tian had always been calm and collected, but now, Jiang Tian was like a manic lion. She was very moved, and a large piece of tender feeling appeared in her heart. He was anxious for her. Yes, it is the Empress Flower. Suddenly, Jiang Tian grabbed Xueqing's shoulder and shook her excitedly. He said loudly, To make an inappropriate analogy, this sponge body is like a patient with heart failure who has a pacemaker installed on his heart. All the blood in his body will surge, and he will be able to use his cultivation. And so, as long as we find the Empress Flower, I can cultivate? Zhao Xueqing also smiled through her tears. Her beautiful eyes were full of hope. But in the next moment, her smile disappeared and she frowned. She said tenderly, According to what you said, the spiritual qi on earth is declining, and it is in the age of chaos. This kind of spiritual grass must be very difficult to find. Then don't worry about it. Jiang Tian waved his hand and said confidently, Even if it is a mountain of swords and a sea of fire, even if it is the 9 heavens, the 5 seas, even if it is the ancient road of the stars, crossing the sea of stars, I will find the Empress Flower for you and help you cultivate. Jiang Tian, thank you. You are so good to me. Qing'er was touched. She hugged Jiang Tian tightly, and sparkling tears rolled down her cheeks again. Between lovers, when their feelings were strong, they would always say, Even if you want the stars in the sky, I'll pluck them down for you. But everyone knew that this was just an exaggeration, but Jiang Tian wanted to put it into practice. Qing'er, even if you can't use your cultivation now, you can still cultivate. It is like a dam storing water. You can only store it now, but you can't use it. But now that you have accumulated more cultivation, once you find the Empress Flower and open the floodgates, it will be like a flowing river, a dragon galloping horse, and a thunderous force. Jiang Tian held her delicate hand, and his eyes shone with excitement as he spoke earnestly. I'll cultivate with you now. Zhao Xueqing nodded her head with a look of anticipation. After pondering for a while, Jiang Tian finally made a decision. The skill he chose for Zhao Xueqing was called the Immortality of the Void formula. That skill had been created by the strongest cultivator of the continent of the Nine Clouds, Renming the Celestial Venerable. Renming the Celestial Venerable was famous for his fighting prowess. He had become a celestial emperor, and was famous in the continent of the Nine Clouds. When Jiang Tian arrived in the continent of the Nine Clouds, he was already a master of the Golden Core stage. Renming was just a boy running around in the mountains. He wanted to join the Star Ocean sect, the first sect in the continent of the Nine Clouds, but he had no foundation. He failed 10 times and was laughed at. Jiang Tian saw that Renming's heart was firm and persevering. He thought of himself and was very moved. He helped Renming enter another small sect, the Great Tao sect. After hundreds of years of cultivation in the continent of the Nine Clouds, Jiang Tian traveled across the void again. After a few years, Jiang Tian returned to the continent of the Nine Clouds again. Renming had become a master of the Great Tao sect, and had become the patriarch of the Great Tao sect. He had also recovered the Star Ocean sect, which surprised Jiang Tian. After asking, he learned that the key point was that Renming had created the art of immortality out of void. He was only in the qi refining stage, but he had lived to 600 years old. Then he found a way to improve his root bone and break through to the foundation building stage. At that time, Renming proudly said, "As long as I live as long as a tortoise, the probability of being hit by a meteorite will increase a lot. Why worry about not being able to improve my foundation? Why worry about not being able to break through?" Jiang Tian laughed and called him an old tortoise, which made the old man so angry that his face turned white. However, jokes were jokes. Jiang Tian deeply felt that this skill was magical, so he asked him what was going on. Without Jiang Tian's guidance, Renming definitely wouldn't have been able to set foot on the road of cultivation. He would have turned into a pile of yellow soil long ago. This kid was deeply grateful to Jiang Tian, so Renming naturally told him everything without holding back. The Immortality of the Void formula was the combination of Renming's hundreds of years of wisdom and the Great Tao sect's thousands of years of inheritance. It was incomparably mysterious and profound. It could be said to be an immortal emperor-level skill. The biggest feature of this skill was that the body was like the void. It had a strong ability to absorb the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, which could be turned into vigorous pure qi. It was very suitable for the little girl's body. Secondly, the pure qi could nourish the body, strengthen the blood, and extend the life. If it reached the peak, it could at least live for 1,000 years. Jiang Tian thought very far, and was prepared to not be able to find the D-daughter flower on Earth. Even if he couldn't find it on Earth, 100 or 1,000 years later, he would be able to set foot on the ancient road of the stars and find the D-daughter flower. At that time, Zhao Xueqing could still use the D-daughter flower to improve her body and display her cultivation. After Jiang Tian finished teaching, Zhao Xueqing immediately followed Jiang Tian's instructions. She sat down cross-legged and began to circulate the Immortality of the Void formula. Suddenly, a shocking scene appeared. The whole villa was filled with wind and thunder. Thick clouds and mist rushed toward the villa like galloping horses and swimming dragons. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The spiritual qi became even more condensed. Like white gelatinous tentacles, it drilled into the room through the window, and into Zhao Xueqing's body through the cracks of the door. It merged into her qi sea and turned into surging pure qi. Zhao Xueqing's back was straight as a pencil. Her eyes were slightly closed, and her beautiful face was filled with awe-inspiring might. Her body emitted a holy light, as if a goddess had descended to the mortal world. Kacha. With a crack, the spiritual qi was too overwhelming. It pushed open the window and shattered the glass. Damn, this is too terrifying. Jiang Tian was speechless. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. This scene had never appeared even when he was cultivating the primal chaos creation formula. It seemed that Renming's cultivation method was also unique. Moreover, Qingyer's physique was too domineering. In the courtyard, the wind whistled. The trees swayed, and even the rockery was swaying. Kacha kacha. Loud sounds rang out incessantly. Streaks of spiritual qi turned into mist and surged crazily. They rubbed against each other like a dark cloud vortex. Lightning as thick as a thumb or an arm was actually produced. They flickered in the spiritual chi like silver snakes. Aya, there's thunder. It's raining. Hurry up and put away the clothes. This scene scared Ghostleg, who was collecting spiritual liquid in the courtyard. So much so that he jumped 3 feet high. Holding the jade bottle, he burrowed into the room like a mouse. Jiang Tian was shocked when he saw this, and he was shocked. If Qing continues cultivating like this for a month, then the spirit energy in Lion Peak and Embroidery Lake will probably be completely sucked dry. And it's even to the extent that my energy convergence formation will collapse from the absorption. Soon, the sky turned bright. Zhao Xueqing finally completed one cycle and opened her eyes. So comfortable. At this moment, under the cover of the morning sun, the little girl's skin was whiter than snow. It was as clear as jade, and her eyes were lively. Her entire body was shining and exuding a holy light. Her white pajamas were spotless. She even had a bit of celestial aura, just like a fairy who had descended to the mortal world. She turned to look at Jiang Tian and asked with a smile, "Hubby, it's so strange. I didn't sleep last night, but I feel so refreshed and energetic. It's so comfortable." This is the most basic convenience of cultivation. From now on, you're cured of all diseases and your body is strong and healthy, Jiang Tian said with a smile. It feels so good. Hubby, I'll reward you with a breakfast of love. Zhao Xueqing smiled sweetly and immediately ran off to make breakfast. After breakfast, Zhao Xueqing said with a smile, "Hubby, accompany me to work. I'm used to having you accompany me." "I'm not going." Jiang Tian shook his head resolutely. "Why? Do you know? When you were cultivating yesterday, all the spiritual qi rushed into your body. It didn't enter my body at all. I couldn't cultivate even if I wanted to." Jiang Tian's face was bitter. He wanted to cry but had no tears. Qing'er's body was simply too domineering. Chapter 140. Just like that, for the remaining month, Jiang Tian did not leave the house. He did not step out of the door and cultivated hard in No. 1 King's Villa. Qing'er worked during the day and accompanied Jiang Tian to cultivate at night. Her comprehension in cultivation was also very amazing. She could discuss cultivation techniques with Jiang Tian, and some of her points could even inspire Jiang Tian. Moreover, her progress could be said to be very fast. In just a month she broke through to the qi refinement stage. However, without the Di Nu flower, she could not use it. From the first 3 stages of qi refinement stage to the middle stage of qi refinement stage was a very important stage. The key was condensing qi into spirit. This was the result of the double strength of divine sense and true essence. The surging true essence fused with a wisp of divine sense, and had its own spirituality. It was like a cultivator's avatar that could assist Jiang Tian in attacking. At this stage, Jiang Tian chose to cultivate the main cultivation technique of his previous life, the Cloud Sea Azure Dragon technique, as a supplement. He wanted to condense 2 Azure Dragons. One Azure Dragon was the spirit of the Spirit Gathering Array, guarding No. 1 King's Villa and protecting his beloved wife. In fact, the Spirit Gathering Array was only a very basic formation. It did not have the ability to attack or defend. Jiang Tian planned to strengthen one of the true essence Azure Dragons into a defensive and lethal Azure Dragon formation. The other Azure Dragon would be his personal item to assist him in defense and attack. The development of Zhao Pharmaceutical Company could only be described as rapid. The muscle-nourishing ointment swept the national market like a hot knife through butter. Its sales rose steadily. Coupled with the orders from the military, it could be said to be like the sun in the sky. In just 3 months, the sales of the muscle-nourishing ointment broke 5 billion, and the net profit was 1 billion. Not to mention the scale of the assets, at least in terms of profit. In 2007, Zhao Pharmaceutical Company was ranked in the top 30 pharmaceutical companies in Wuxia. On this day, Jiang Tian was meditating in No. 1 King's Villa. Zhao Qianru ran over and smiled. "Brother-in-law, it's the National Day holiday. Let's go out and play." "How can I have time to play with you? Look at this villa." Jiang Tian patted his little head and laughed involuntarily. "Brother-in-law, you said that before I have a boyfriend, you will accompany me. But now, you only accompany big sister, and don't even have me in your heart." The little girl was wearing a light spaghetti strap dress. Her long legs were snowy white, and she was wearing high-heeled sandals. She hugged Jiang Tian's arm passionately and acted like a spoiled child. Jiang Tian's face darkened. This was really a promise that he made, was a debt that he owed. That's right, brother-in-law. We plan to go to the Thousand Island Lake Resort in Leizhou to play. Do you want to come with me? The little girl hugged Jiang Tian's arm and smiled with anticipation. I won't go. Jiang Tian shook his head and said, What's there to play with, you guys? There's a generation gap, and there's no common language. Brother-in-law, how can you go back on your words? Be careful or I'll complain to my sister. The little girl pursed her lips and stamped her feet, feeling inexplicably jealous. Jiang Tian couldn't stand her sharp tongue and raised his hands in surrender. All right, as long as your sister allows it, I have no problem. Zhao Qianru hurriedly called her sister and told her about the matter. Then she handed the phone to Jiang Tian and said, My sister has instructions. Wifey, what do you say? Jiang Tian asked with a smile. Go and accompany Xueqing on her vacation. Zhao Xueqing smiled gently and said, You've been too busy recently. If you're not studying formations, you're cultivating hard. You even have to think about my physique. It's time to change your brain. Besides, she's young and heartless. If you go with her, I'll be more at ease. Don't worry. With me around, no one will dare to harm a single hair on Qianru's head. Jiang Tian hurriedly promised and said, Why don't you come with us? Forget it, the company has a lot of orders right now. I can't leave at all, so I won't be going. Zhao Xueqing gently shook her head. At this moment, Shen Luo and Zheng Li came over and smiled. Jiang Tian, where are you going to play? Not only did they need Shen Mange, Master Qi and the others who knew about formations, they also needed people who were proficient in construction and civil engineering. Especially when the process of setting up the formation destroyed the roadside and landscape of the villa. The repair and restoration after the event was also not a small project. Shen Li's family was originally in the construction business, and he himself had also studied this in university. Now that he had returned to his old profession, Jiang Tian called him and Zheng Li to bring the construction team over to help. However, Jiang Tian discovered that the two of them had been flirting with each other these days, as if they were having an affair. Regarding this, Jiang Tian was also very gratified. It seemed that his return had changed the fate of some people. Zheng Li was much better than his original girlfriend. He hoped that Shen Lu would have a happy marriage. Thousand Island Lake Resort. Jiang Tian said with a smile. We want to go too. Master Kong, you can't be so stingy. You have to bring us along. Zheng Li and Shen Lu jeered together. In fact, after interacting with Jiang Tian for a long time, they realized that Jiang Tian was actually quite approachable, especially to people of the same age. All right. You guys have worked hard these days. Let's go together tomorrow. Jiang Tian said with a smile. The next day, everyone gathered at the entrance of the Zhao family's lakeside villa early in the morning. On Jiang Tian's side, there were only two friends, Zheng Li and Shen Le. On Zhao Qianru's side, there were still 5 or 6 university classmates. It could be seen that Chu Yuwei's university classmates all had good family backgrounds. They all drove private cars and wore luxurious clothes. Jiang Tian was too lazy to drive, so Shen Le drove a Volkswagen Golf over. There was even an advertisement sticker on it that read Earth, Sand Construction. A university classmate of Zhao Qianru called Lu Wenhong sneered and said disdainfully, Qianru, your brother-in-law's car is quite unique. Lu Wenhong, show some respect. How could you know my brother-in-law's ability? Zhao Qianru glanced at him. I think your brother-in-law is just an ordinary uncle. I heard that he was kicked out of his family and came in? Lu Wenhong said with a face full of disdain. Lu Wenhong had pursued Zhao Qianru some time ago, but was ruthlessly rejected by Zhao Qianru. The reason was also very strange. You don't look like my brother-in-law. When Lu Wenhong heard this reason, he almost fainted from anger. What does it have to do with your brother-in-law that I'm in a relationship with you? However, he had always been curious about Zhao Qianru, this legendary brother-in-law of his. Today when he saw Jiang Tian, he immediately became eccentric. Lu Wenhong, why are you so nosy? If you keep talking nonsense, I won't go play. Zhao Qianru glared at him and pulled the door open to get out of the car. All right, Qianru, this trip to the Thousand Island Lake Resort is still Wenhong's treat. Just give him some face. Chu Yue hurriedly advised. I'm too lazy to talk to you. Zhao Qianru opened the door and got out of the car. She got into the Volkswagen Golf that Jiang Tian was driving. Damn, what's so great about a person who does earth and stone business? Seeing this, Lu Wenhong secretly gritted his teeth. When everyone was here, he started the car with a gloomy face and the three cars set off together. The Thousand Island Lake Resort was located in the southernmost part of Lingnan Leizhou. It was only separated from Hainan by the Qiongzhou Strait. In less than 4 hours, the three cars arrived at the border of Leizhou. When they got off the highway, there were already a few sports cars waiting at the exit. Lamborghini, Maserati, BMW X5, I'm dizzy. All of them are luxury cars. Chu Yue leaned against the window and looked at the row of sports cars. Her eyes were not enough to take in all of them. For a well-off family like her, driving a private car was already amazing. This kind of luxury car was simply unimaginable. Shenle, who was in the car behind, was also shocked. It seemed that these were all young masters of Leizhou. Lu Wenhong felt that he had gained face. He got out of the car and shook hands with the leading young man. Brother Fan, you're giving me too much face. Haha, who asked your cousin to be Tang Xiaoza? I will definitely give you face. The young man called Brother Fan laughed and glanced at the car. TSK, there were also a few beauties. I didn't expect Lu Wenhong's eyes to be so good. Thank you, Brother Fan. Lu Wenhong was flattered and had a servile expression. The young man winked and smiled. Which one do you like? You have too many beauties. Lu Wenhong said calmly. In the Volkswagen Golf, the girl wearing suspenders. Don't worry. This time, brother will definitely give you face. If it doesn't work, I'll call my cousin Bai Choufei or your cousin to come over tonight. Your cousin is the awesome one. Yangcheng's first-class young master Tang Xiaoza. You're looking for me from afar. The young man winked and smiled. Hey, my cousin is extremely busy. How could he have the time to care about my trivial matters? Lu Wenhong said with an understanding smile. The conversation between the two was heard by Chu Yue. Her face was filled with horror as she said in a trembling voice. Yangcheng's #1 young master Bai Choufei? And Tang Xiaoza. Bai Choufei was famous in Yangcheng, and Chu Yue had heard of him in Jiangbei. It was said that he controlled the super-large flying cloud society, and had a strange hobby. He loved to drink breast milk, and would often search for breastfeeding women in Yangcheng. Whoever dared to disobey, he would directly cripple them. The young man's face turned cold as he said in a deep voice, Little girl, don't talk nonsense. If these words reach young Master Bai's ears, your entire family will die. I didn't expect you to be Tang Xiaoza's cousin. You're so low-key in school, I've never heard you mention it. Chu Yue stuck out her tongue in fright. She looked at Lu Wenhong with a whole new level of respect and said apologetically, I'm sorry for just now, I didn't mean it. Don't take it to heart. My cousin isn't here. Lu Wenhong said politely, but the pride and arrogance in his eyes could not be concealed. A student looked at Chu Yue in astonishment and said, Isn't your father the deputy director of the Commerce Bureau in Linzhou? Why would he be afraid of this kind of person? That's still not good. Chu Yue said with a bitter smile. This kind of powerful person can talk to the mayor and the secretary of the municipal committee. Moreover, this is Leizhou. That is the territory of Tang Xiaoza and Bai Choufei. She gave those ignorant students a look of disdain, saying softly, Moreover, Tang Xiaoza and Bai Choufei are both especially powerful figures. Just Tang Xiaoza alone is someone not even Eastern Sea's Yi Gufeng could defeat. As for Lin Province's Tang family and Zheng family, they are even more inferior. At this moment, Lu Wenhong glanced at the Volkswagen Golf that Jiang Tian was in and said indifferently, That brat is Zhao Qianru's brother-in-law. Zhao Qianru praises him as if he is the sky. Today help me humiliate him. Let him understand who is the real strong. He with his loser appearance, is he in the business of stone? That young man disdainfully patted his chest and said with a sinister smile, Leizhou is my territory. I can meet him however I want. Chapter 141. The car didn't drive into the city. After getting off the highway, they directly took the ring road and arrived at the Thousand Island Lake scenic spot in the suburbs. The Thousand Island Lake was originally a scenic spot. Now it was contracted by a tourism investment company and developed into a large-scale project that integrated real estate, tourism, vacation, and entertainment. Just as they left the parking lot, they saw a tall and handsome young man leading the manager and others to greet them at the entrance of the resort. Brother Nan, why did you come out personally? Seeing the young man appear, even Lu Wenhong was slightly moved. He quickly walked over and shook hands with him while enthusiastically introducing. This is the general manager of the Thousand Island Lake Resort by Tian Nan. You must have heard of his cousin, Bai Choufei, young master Bai. Bai Choufei's cousin. Wenhong, you also know such a big shot like Bai Choufei. Young master Bai seems to have a scandal with the big star Guo Jichong some time ago. Is it true? Zhao Qianru's classmates were stunned and excitedly discussed. For example, Guo Jiniao and Bai Choufei were people who often appeared in the gossip news. Stars, young masters, wealthy families, domineering CEOs. These words were originally unattainable existences, but now, they actually appeared right in front of their eyes. Wenhong, I heard about you from your cousin. Today, young master Bai and young master Tang came together to discuss business. Bai Tiannan lightly shook hands with Lu Wenhong and smiled reservedly. Is that so? Lu Wenhong shook Bai Tiannan's hand excitedly. His face was ecstatic. Cousin will also appear? That's great. I can let these classmates see my amazing strength. That's the #1 young master in Yangcheng. These are my classmates. He also wanted to introduce his classmates to Bai Tiannan. However, although Bai Tiannan was only 25 or 26 years old, his aura was huge and he was quite arrogant. He was too lazy to pay attention to him and directly interrupted. Okay, you can slowly get to know each other later. Let's go in first. Everyone felt this kind of contempt, but no one would say anything. Bai Tiannan's status was so high and his financial resources were not something they could compare to. Walking into the resort, everyone was shocked. On the vast Thousand Island Lake, there were more than a dozen small islands with luxuriant vegetation and pleasant environments. They were connected by glass planks. On each small island, there were tall villa-style hotels and various entertainment facilities. The clear lake was a vast expanse of green. A white yacht sailed across the white waves, leaving behind sounds of joy and laughter. What's that? Umbrellas? I played it when I was traveling in Penang. As Chu Yue walked along the cobblestone path, she looked at the lake and exclaimed in surprise. A speedboat set off 2 white waves as it sailed quickly. The speedboat was pulling an umbrella, and under the umbrella sat 2 tourists. Cheerful screams could be heard continuously. As Bai Tiannan walked in front, he proudly introduced, My family's resort occupies 13 small islands, and there's also a part of the shore. There was a luxurious lakeside hotel with more than 200 rooms and 5 villa-style hotels. Dozens of villa experience rooms. In addition, each island has a different type of entertainment. On the first island, extreme sports such as real-life CS, rock climbing, etc. On the second island, there's a racing track that completely simulates the F1 track. On the third island, there's the only yacht club in Lingnan. It has even appeared at the Banquet of Bliss. We also have 3 high-end restaurants here. Australian lobsters, 2-headed abalone, and Japanese caviar. They're all flown in, and we have everything you need. That's awesome. Listening to Bai Tiannan's introduction, the girls were already grinning from ear to ear. Even the boys were tempted. Chu Yue secretly pulled down her collar, revealing her fair skin. She leaned over and said with a fawning face, Brother Tiannan, the investment for this resort is not small, right? The initial investment is 500 million. The next step will be an additional 1 billion to build villas with a lake view. Bai Tiannan said calmly. Your family is really powerful. This investment could be considered a huge sum. It's more powerful than many of the tycoons in Jiangbei. Lu Wenhong exclaimed. You're wrong again. Bai Tiannan said solemnly. The first 500 million is indeed our Bai family's investment, but the subsequent investment is from the Lingnan Chamber of Commerce led by Master Kong. Who's Master Kong? What's the Lingnan Chamber of Commerce? Many people present were puzzled. Even Lu Wenhong, who was well informed, shook his head lightly. You're all from Linzhou City, but you've never heard of Master Kong and the Jiangbei Chamber of Commerce? Bai Tiannan looked at them in surprise. It seemed that Lu Wenhong's family background and status were not too high. They didn't even know of the great Master Kong. Everyone was puzzled. Master Kong is from Linzhou City. Bai Tiannan sighed with reverence. On the Blue Whale Princess, he defeated the Great Circle's expert Xing Shanhu with one punch and suppressed the entire Jiangbei. Even Peak Master Yi Gufeng bowed his head to him. He's known as the Jiangbei Godfather. Later on, he fought his way to Lingnan. Now many tycoons in Yangqing worship him. What kind of heaven-defying strength is this? As he spoke, he felt that he had said too much. Bai Chofei had warned him not to spread news about Master Kong. He hurriedly stopped and changed the topic. Wenhong, come with me to get the room card. Take a rest and have some fun. I'll come back tonight to accompany you. After Lu Wenhong and Bai Tiannan left, everyone sighed. What? Even Zheng Guangxia bowed his head to him. He's so powerful. This Master Kong should be an old grandpa. Everyone exclaimed in surprise. Their eyes widened in disbelief. Chu Yue glanced at Jiang Tian and thought, that Master Kong can't be Jiang Tian, right? The next moment, she shook her head. Impossible. This guy was originally a lunatic, and now he had become a swindler. It was fine if he swindled people in a small place like Jiangbei, but how could he swindle people in Jiangnan? At that time, she had also witnessed the Tang family's apprenticeship ceremony, but the more she thought about it, the more she felt that it was impossible. Jiang Tian was crazy back then. He smashed and burned at home, and Chu Yue and Zhao Xueqing couldn't clean up the mess. She had seen it with her own eyes. The contrast was so huge. How could she easily accept the fact that Jiang Tian had ascended to the heavens? She believed that Jiang Tian had used some method to deceive the Tang family, and those people in Jiangbei. He was just fishing for fame. Let's put down our luggage first and play together after lunch. At this time, Lu Wenhong had already gotten the room cards from the manager and started to distribute them to everyone. This National Day trip was completely arranged by Lu Wenhong. The expenses of coming out to play were also covered by him. As for how to stay, it was naturally arranged by him. Zhao Qianru, Chu Yue, and the others were assigned to a villa area. There was plenty of sunlight there, and the view was broad. Moreover, more than a dozen people stayed in a villa. After playing, they could even play cards and chat together. Jiang Tian, Xinlu, and Zheng Li stayed in an ordinary hotel. The two rooms were on the first floor. The ground was very damp and was blocked by tall trees. Usually, this was for the hotel attendants on the night shift. It was obvious that they had been marginalized. Everyone put down their luggage and gathered in the lobby again. Lu Wenhong had already arrived. Seeing Jiang Tian coming over, he laughed sinisterly. Uncle Jiang, the environment of the room is not bad, right? Jiang Tian obviously sensed Lu Wenhong's exclusion of him, but he didn't take it to heart. He wasn't very particular about food, clothing, accommodation, and transportation, so he smiled gently and said, "The environment is pretty good, thank you for your arrangements." Did this kid not have any awareness of being excluded? Lu Wenhong gritted his teeth in anger and frowned. "All right, as long as you're happy." Why isn't my brother-in-law staying with us? Zhao Qianru put down her luggage and walked over, asking in confusion. Our villa hotel is already full. So I arranged an ordinary room for Uncle Jiang. Lu Wenhong said with a fake smile. Oh, so it's like this. Zhao Qianru nodded her head in realization and suddenly said something shocking. Then brother-in-law, you and I will stay in the same room tonight. Gee, you two are staying together. Lu Wenhong was suddenly in a difficult position and suffered a blow. Could it be that he wasn't your brother-in-law, but your boyfriend? Could it be that you two have already slept together? Yeah, my sister and I share a husband and sleep together. What's wrong with staying together? Zhao Qianru's face was matter-of-fact as she hugged Jiang Tian's arm and said softly, "Do I still have to report to you? You're really controlling everything." Jiang Tian was speechless. This time he was actually used as a shield by his sister-in-law. Who could he reason with? Damn, this is too shocking. Two sisters marrying a husband? What a monster. What a zombie. Wenhong is so sad he's making a wedding dress for someone else. Wenhong organized this National Day trip to confess to Zhao Qianru. Now it's all for nothing. Damn, the restaurant even prepared roses. In this situation, do you want to remove it? All the students looked at Lu Wenhong sympathetically, as if his forehead had already turned green. Facing Zhao Qianru's questioning, Lu Wenhong's face turned green and white. After a long time he said bitterly, "Of course there's no problem. Let's go eat." On the way to the restaurant, a few students gathered around Lu Wenhong, who was walking at the back, and expressed their righteous indignation as they suggested, "Lu Wenhong, what should we do? Should we beat him up?" "Yeah, what's the point of being polite at this point? Beat him up until he doesn't dare to get close to Zhao Qianru. This grandson is too infuriating. He even dares to touch Wenhong's woman. I really can't stand it. I must beat him to death. You guys just act according to my signal." Looking at Jiang Tian, who was holding Zhao Qianru's hand, Lu Wenhong's anger soared to the sky as he gritted his teeth. If looks could kill, Jiang Tian would have died 100 times over. The restaurant was more Western, in the form of a buffet. In order to confess to Zhao Qianru, Lu Wenhong even spent a lot of money and booked the entire restaurant. Therefore, there were no other guests. At this time, Zhao Qianru took the food and sat beside Jiang Tian. She said apologetically, "Brother-in-law, I'm sorry. He always harassed me, so I had to use you as a shield to make him give up. You won't be angry, right? You should have told me in advance so that I could dress up more handsome." Jiang Tian smiled indifferently. "Brother-in-law is the most handsome. There's no need to dress up." Zhao Qianru giggled. Lu Wenhong also came over and sat down. He was burning with jealousy and the veins on his forehead were throbbing. He sneered with a gloomy face. "Uncle Jiang, is that kid Xinlu your friend?" "And my classmate. Our relationship is not bad. You know him?" Jiang Tian looked at him in surprise. Chapter 142. That brat wanted to take on a project in Yangqing City, so he came to visit my dad with gifts. Lu Wenhong shook his head with an arrogant expression and disdainfully said, "He's too whimsical. He only brought a few bottles of Maotai, and wanted to curry favor with my dad. What a joke." Lu Wenhong ridiculed. "I threw him out like a wild dog and threw the Maotai into the trash can. That brat was so scared that he nearly knelt down." Xin Li's face was ashen with humiliation and resentment in his eyes. It seems that what Lu Wenhong said was true. "Haha, is that so?" Jiang Tian frowned as anger gathered in his chest for the first time. Lu Wenhong added fuel to the fire and proudly said, "But now that I know about your relationship with him, I feel that I was a little rude. If he wants to take on a project, you guys can go and beg my dad together. There's no need to bring gifts. I will ask my dad to give him a way out." Jiang Tian calmly said, "Go back and tell your dad that the projects that your dad invests in will all belong to Xinlu." Lu Wenhong was stunned for a moment before he said with disdain, "Jiang Tian, who do you think you are? Are you crazy? Can you make the decision?" Jiang Tian faintly smiled. "Whether I can make the decision or not, you can ask Tang Xiaoza or your dad. Also, don't harass Qianru anymore. She doesn't have a good impression of you." "Bullshit." Lu Wenhong slammed the table and pointed at Jiang Tian. "I don't care what relationship you have with Zhao Qianru. In short, you little loser, stay away from her. Otherwise, I will kill you. Lu Wenhong, show some respect. In Linzhou City, Jiang Tian and Zhou Jinghao have a say." Xinlu angrily slammed the table. It was fine for others to insult him, but he couldn't bear to see others insult his good brother, Jiang Tian. "Haha, Zhou Jinghao. Longatian? Bird feathers." Lu Wenhong's face was filled with arrogance as he mocked. "Compared to my uncle, Tang Zhinya, and my cousin, Tang Xiaoza, he's nothing." Chu Yue's face was full of disdain as she said with a cold smile, "Jiang Tian, How can you forcefully resist Lu Wenhong? He may be young, but he is Tang Zhenye's nephew. You may be popular in Linzhou, but this is Leizhou. The fall of the Lingnan clan's Wei clan had a huge impact, but in the end, it was still too far away from a child from a well-off family, like Chu Yue. When they saw the news on the news, they only muttered to themselves, "Oh, the Wei clan has fallen." How could they possibly look into the truth behind this? How could they possibly know the relationship between this great change and Jiang Tian? In Chu Yue's eyes, Jiang Tian was only a scammer in the Jiangbei region. However, if he were to run into the big shots of Jiangnan province, he would have to kneel down and submit to them. After all, the Tang family of Yangcheng City was a power that even the Tang family of Linzhou City couldn't afford to offend. Otherwise, he would have killed him and no one would be able to do anything. That's right, Jiang Tian couldn't even be killed by bullets. He burned Mo Haoxiong to ashes with a long flame. He killed the little Taoist master Wei Peng with a single glance. He even withstood 10 li of earth qi and killed the spell master Wei Shuofeng. This kind of power, this kind of ability, this kind of ruthlessness, had long been deeply imprinted in Tang Xiao's mind. He would never be able to forget it for the rest of his life. When he thought about it, his whole body trembled. When he thought about it, he couldn't eat or sleep well. When he thought about how his legs were broken by the ghost's kick, his bones still felt waves of pain. But now, this blind cousin of his actually had ideas about Jiang Tian's sister-in-law, and even spoke such arrogant words. Wasn't this trying to kill him? You shut up. He was shocked and angry at the same time. He jumped up and slapped Lu Wenhong's face, causing his nose to bleed violently. Cousin, why did you hit me? Lu Wenhong was dizzy and disoriented. He covered his face in confusion and astonishment. Tang Xiaozi gritted his teeth and his eyes spat fire. You dog, you're crazy. How dare you talk to Master Kong like that? As he spoke, Tang Xiaozi quickly walked up to Jiang Tian, bowed respectfully, cupped his fists and smiled apologetically. Grandmaster Jiang, this little brother of mine has a foul mouth and offended you. Don't worry, I'll surely take care of him. Everyone was confused. Tang Xiaozi was just a son-in-law of the Zhao family who was in the stone business. Did he have to give him face? Only Chu Yue's beautiful eyes were wide open. She was shocked and cold sweat came out. She understood in her heart. So Jiang Tian was the Master Kong they were talking about. So he didn't just earn the Tang family's respect. He had already suppressed the entire Lingnan and made many of the top young masters in Yangcheng fear him. Okay, don't make a fuss. Don't let anyone come. I just want to play with my sister-in-law for 2 days. Jiang Tian waved his hand and said lightly, That's good, that's good. I'll take care of everything. Tang Xiaozi kept bowing and slowly backed away. This Lu Wenhong disrespected me again and again. Kill him. Jiang Tian's tone was light. It was as if he was simply crushing an ant. Do it. Tang Xiaozi turned his head abruptly and shouted at the bodyguards who were staring at him with their mouths agape. Damn it, if I don't kill him, I'm afraid I'll be the one dead. What are you waiting for? Yes. A few attendants immediately swarmed forward and dragged Lu Wenhong, who was so scared that he was dumbstruck, out of the room like a little chick. Master Kong, I know I was wrong. Spare me this time. Lu Wenhong struggled and begged for mercy. Tears fell like rain, but Jiang Tian just ate silently and didn't even look at him. It hurts. A moment later, 2 blood-curdling screams came from outside the door, and then there was a terrifying silence. Chu Yue was so scared that her whole body trembled. She moved to Jiang Tian with difficulty and said in a trembling voice, Jiang Tian, I'm sorry. Everyone, don't be nervous. Since you're Qianru's classmate, you're my friend. I've always been a very easygoing person. Jiang Tian didn't even look at her. He raised his wine glass at the students who were scared stiff and kept quiet out of fear. He nodded and smiled. Easygoing, your sister. Killing people without blinking. Great Demon King. These students trembled and turned their heads away. They didn't dare to look at Jiang Tian, this terrifying guy. After the meal, under everyone's astonished gaze, Jiang Tian and Zhao Qianru moved into Lakeview Villa 1. Even Shenluo and Zhengli moved into Villa 8. Brother-in-law is too mighty and domineering. From now on, none of these boys will dare to harass me. While swimming in the open-air swimming pool on the roof of the villa, Zhao Qianru's graceful body created splashes of water as she proudly smiled. It's not good for you to be like this. I see that there are 2 young men inside. They're quite handsome. Under the parasol, Jiang Tian was dressed casually. He was lying on a bench and casually flipping through a Chinese medicine book as he spoke indifferently. TSK, how can they compare to brother-in-law? If I don't want to find someone, then I won't. If I want to find someone like brother-in-law, Zhao Qianru said with a firm expression. I'm afraid that's very difficult. This sister-in-law is possessed. Regarding this, Jiang Tian could only shake his head and smile bitterly as he sighed helplessly. For the remaining 2 days, Jiang Tian, Zhao Qianru, Shenluo, Zhengli and the others had a good time at the Thousand Island Lake Resort. After washing away their fatigue, they drove back. On the way back, Chu Yue and Zhao Qianru's classmates all had heavy hearts. They were silent and avoided Jiang Tian with fear in their eyes. Regarding this, Jiang Tian didn't take it to heart. He thought leisurely, there shouldn't be anything else after this. I should focus on cultivation and cultivate to the 4th level as soon as possible. After breaking through to the middle stage of qi refinement, I should also return to Qixia City to take a look. He looked at the scenery outside the car window. A trace of coldness flashed through his eyes as he muttered. Those people who bullied my parents and coveted the Jiang family in my previous life, I hope you are prepared to die. When Fu Lanjun asked her why, Zhou Xianya was so scared that she couldn't stop trembling, and left without saying a word. At this time, it was 5 o'clock in the morning, and the east was gradually turning white. She easily pushed open the door of the villa. Clouds and mist swirled around. Vegetation grew luxuriantly, and rockery and strange rocks could be vaguely seen. It was almost like a fairyland. Is there no one living here? Could it be that Lu Biao made a mistake? Fu Lanjun entered as if there was no one around. Seeing that the villa's door was locked, she went up to the rooftop viewing platform. Jiang Tian. She cried out in alarm. She saw Jiang Tian sitting on the rocking chair, leisurely sipping his tea. I knew you were coming. Jiang Tian swallowed a mouthful of tea as the corner of his mouth curved into a mocking smile. Do you think you're an immortal? You know everything. Seeing Jiang Tian's indifferent and calm appearance, Fu Lanjun suddenly became angry. All the scenes of her being humiliated in front of Jiang Tian floated up in her mind. Especially Jiang Tian's eyes, which made her very uncomfortable. It was as if he was watching an ant climb with interest. Or perhaps he was a spectator in the corner of the theater, watching other people's horse performances, but he knew that this was just a show. He was high and mighty, as if he was looking at ants. His arrogance was boundless. She was so angry that her body trembled. I don't believe that you are Master Kong. Why not? Jiang Tian narrowed his eyes. His interest was piqued. Why? It's too simple. Because of reason. Fu Lanjun poured out all the grievances she had suffered over the past few months. She clenched her fists and shouted. The Tang family treats you like a VIP, and the elites of Jiangbei see you as their leader. But I don't believe it. Because you don't have the qualifications to be a big shot. You seem to be low-key, but in reality, you are arrogant and disregard the rules of society. In terms of family background, the Jiang family is on the decline. The Medicine King group is struggling. You were expelled from your family because you offended a big shot in Yanjin. You can't rely on the Jiang family. In terms of tactics, you are not as good as Lu Tianla, or even Long Gaitian. In terms of IQ, you are crazy, ignorant and fearless. You are no different from a lunatic. How can you compare with those business elites? You are ignorant and incompetent. You only studied in a third-rate school. You almost couldn't graduate because of cheating. Your personality is not good. Your family background is not good. Your tactics are not good. Your IQ is not good. How can you be Master Kong? So either you are a liar or they are blind. By the end of her speech, her body was trembling. She clenched her fists as if she was going to shout out all the doubts, grievances, and fears that she had accumulated over the past few days. Fu Lanjun had received an elite education since she was a child. She had studied at the business school of the University of London. She had always thought that she was good at identifying talents. Her relationship with Tang Jianfeng was one of her masterpieces. Tang Jianfeng was said to have been expelled from the Tang family. No one thought highly of him. However, when it came to Jiang Tian, she had been wrong many times. She had even put herself in a difficult position. Oh, that's it. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. You are not stupid. It's just that my abilities are far beyond what ordinary people can imagine. As for you, unfortunately, you are just an ordinary person. Jiang Tian looked down at the city that was gradually waking up under the morning sun. Those trees, those bricks, those crisscrossing city silhouettes, those calm lakes and distant mountains, and the things beyond the lakes and mountains. Everything seemed familiar, but it had a different meaning from his previous life. You will never be able to imagine that there is another real world in this world other than the life on the surface. Moreover, you will never be able to enter this world. Jiang Tian said faintly. Another world? Fu Lanjun was confused. Yes. Jiang Tian stood up lazily and smiled. Fine. You have been thinking about me and even came here today. I will show you another world. After that, Jiang Tian stomped his feet and shouted, Array, rise! Suddenly, between Xiu Lake and Lion Peak, pillars of light shot into the sky. Above the lake and between the mountains, the sea of clouds churned. Spiritual fog surged like a tide and enveloped the villas. Under Fu Lanjuan's horrified gaze, two white chi dragons that were as thick as giant trees let out dragon roars as they shot through the sea of clouds with great might. This is... When she saw the dragon head that was the size of a millstone vividly appear before her eyes, Fu Lanjun couldn't help but stagger back in horror. Woo-woo. The two white chi dragons were like obedient cats, curled up under Jiang Tian's feet. The huge dragon heads kept rubbing against Jiang Tian's shoulders. Now you should know the answer, right? Jiang Tian turned around and looked directly into her panicked eyes as if he was looking at an ant. He said indifferently, he said calmly, I suppressed Jiang Bei and Ling Nan. I don't need any knowledge or family background. Because I have the power to control the life and death of others. Facing this scene that was like a legend, Fu Lanjuan's heart fell to the bottom of the valley as she screamed crazily. With this kind of ability, he is really close to a god. No wonder he became the Master Kong that everyone worships. Following that, regret and frustration that was 10 times stronger than before swallowed her body and mind completely. Her tears fell like rain as she stumbled out of the villa. On the morning of the 28th of November, 2007, on Lion Peak, the Chi Dragon array was completed. On this day, Jiang Tian condensed his essence into 2 Qi cultivation stage, and successfully stepped into the mid-stage of Qi cultivation stage. Lin Zhou is finally stable. I can finally go back to my hometown to take a look. Jiang Tian did not care about what Fu Lanjun was thinking. He allowed her to run out in a sorry state. However, his thoughts drifted to Jinling, to Qixia County, the place where he grew up. Walk slowly. Let dad and mom grow old slowly. Thinking about his parents whom he had not seen for 10,000 years, Jiang Tian's eyes were slightly moist but filled with excitement. At this moment, Zhao Xueqing, who had just finished her cultivation, walked up the stage in white silk pajamas. She smiled and said, Dad and Mom really missed you. This time, even Dad called. She was beautiful. Coupled with the fact that she had cultivated, her aura was even more ethereal. Her first smile could topple a city, and her second smile could topple a country. Oh, is that so? Jiang Tian was slightly stunned as his eyes turned slightly moist. His father, Jiang Zhixing, should have been the deputy head of Qixia County in his previous life. He was someone who worked in the system and was careful with his words and actions. He was introverted towards his own feelings, and would not ask about him directly. However, it was often said that a father's love was like a mountain. Jiang Tian still remembered that after he had caused a huge mess by beating up that young master in Beijing, his father had actually disregarded his age and pride to apologize to that young master, begging for mercy and begging for mercy. After Jiang Tian was chased out of the family, His father seemed to have aged 10 years in an instant. He would drown his sorrows in alcohol and sigh. Within half a year, his hair had turned completely white. I told Dad that you were researching the prescription. Even though he didn't believe me, his tone was filled with relief. Looking at Jiang Tian's reddened eyes, Zhao Xueqing thought that Jiang Tian had missed his parents after not seeing them for a year. She smiled and consoled him. Don't be sad. The formation is done and you've broken through. Let's hurry back to Qixia County to take a look. Who would have known that Jiang Tian had not seen his parents for 10,000 years? How was that a year or two? It had been 10,000 years since Jiang Tian had committed suicide by jumping off the cliff and being taken away by his master to embark on the path of cultivation. In these 10,000 years, Jiang Tian had won countless battles and suppressed countless old demons and great demons. Many immortal emperors and god's sons had submitted to him, causing the name of the Taichu Celestial Venerable to resound throughout the universe. Jiang Tian could be said to have gathered all the glory on his body. However, in the depths of Jiang Tian's heart, the person he felt the most guilty towards was Xueqing. However, what he missed the most was his parents. Chapter 144. In his previous life, Jiang Tian was not famous and could not do anything. He could only watch as the Jiang family was destroyed. In this life, Jiang Tian returned in a strong and powerful manner. He would not allow such a tragedy to happen again. Those demons and monsters who coveted the Jiang family deserved to be killed. They all deserved to die. Jiang Tianyu. Zhao Xueqing was shocked. She could feel a terrifying murderous aura emanating from Jiang Tian's body. Jiang Tian was usually calm and carefree. Even if he met a strong enemy, he would not bat an eyelid even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. She had only felt Jiang Tian's terrifying murderous aura when Li Pengtao was molesting her. The second time was now. I'm fine. Jiang Tian retracted the murderous aura in the depths of his heart and smiled warmly at Zhao Xueqing. Have you finished packing? Yes. There are 8 fortune bracelets for Grandpa and Mom and Dad, pills, tonics. Zhao Xueqing reported with great familiarity. Let's go. Let's go now. Jiang Tian nodded calmly, but he could not wait any longer. In fact, Jiang Tian had wanted to return to Qixia County for a long time. However, Jiangnan was still unsettled, and Wei Shuofeng was still concerned about it. He was not at ease. Moreover, he had not broken through to the mid-stage of qi refining, so he had to wait for a few more months. He had not seen them for 10,000 years. When he thought of his parents, Jiang Tian's guilt and longing became even more severe. This had been tormenting him for 10,000 years. At this moment, Jiang Tian could not wait to fly to his parents' side. When they set off, Jiang Tian wanted to drive the Rolls-Royce Phantom, but Zhao Xueqing stopped him. Mom has always been worried that we will spend money recklessly. If we drive this over, she will be furious. And what Qing'er said makes sense. Then let's drive your Chevrolet. Jiang Tian nodded. Ghost Kick and Shen Mange placed all of Jiang Tian's gifts in the trunk and asked, Master, Mistress, should we follow them? Ghost Kick, you stay at home and take care of the house. Mange, you come with us. Jiang Tian said with a faint smile. The spirit gathering formation contained many natural treasures. If an expert were to discover it, they would definitely covet it. Thus, it was better to leave the ghost leg behind. Afterwards, Shen Mange drove the car while Jiang Tian and Zhao Xueqing sat in the back, hand in hand. They headed towards Qixia County. Lingnan was located in the southern part of Wuxia, while Jinling was located in the Jiangsu province. It was located in the eastern coastal area of Wuxia, separated by Gan Province and Insignia Province. Along the way, the Chevrolet only arrived at the highway intersection of Qixia County in the evening of the second day. On the way, he received a call from his father's chauffeur, Little Son, saying that he would send a car to pick him up. In the end, they were outnumbered and chased the other side down the street. Among the few of us, I'm the most useless. Standing with you guys, I feel like I'm useless. Jiang Tian said with a sigh. This was Jiang Tian's true thoughts during that time in his previous life. Although he was a playboy, He was also loyal and didn't want to implicate his brothers. Bullshit. If you say that, it means you don't treat us as brothers. Marshal Zhen's tears flowed like crazy. He pointed at Jiang Tian and roared. How difficult is it? Can't we handle it together? But you left Shi Xia without saying a word. You didn't even leave a phone number. Where do you want us to go to find you? Jiang Tian was silent. However, a warm current welled up in his heart. Marshal Zhen, don't be angry. Zhao Xueqing walked up and said. Actually, Jiang Tian hasn't forgotten about you. He often mentions you guys to me. He wants to make some achievements himself before looking for you guys. Is there a need for that? Marshal Zhen suddenly turned around and angrily glared at Zhao Xueqing. He was so angry that he vented his anger at everyone. Is there a need for us to prove anything to him? Even if he's a murderer, the three of us will go to jail for him. At worst, we'll go to jail with him. If he's a drug addict, the three of us will let him smoke. He's scum. The three of us will stand beside him. Let's see who the fuck dares to scold him. Zhao Xueqing was slightly stunned. She didn't know how to persuade the angry Marshal Zhen. Marshal Zhen glanced at Jiang Tian. He opened the door of the Porsche Cayenne and sat in. He cast a sidelong glance at Jiang Tian and sneered. You're so boring. You're boring? Jiang Tian retorted. You're boring. Marshal Zhen's voice rose a few octaves. You're even more boring. Jiang Tian noticed that the frost on Marshal Zhen's face was melting bit by bit. The corner of his mouth slowly rose into a smile. He laughed and said, You're smiling, smiling, smiling. Who's smiling at you? Marshal Zhen shouted coldly. But in the end his handsome face couldn't hold back anymore. He burst into laughter. All right, brother, don't be angry. Jiang Tian walked to his side and patted Marshal Zhen's shoulder. The valiant Commander Zhen was now like a young couple who was having an argument. He shrugged his shoulders and pretended to be angry. Jiang Tian, don't you dare touch me. All right, let's go eat. I've booked a restaurant to welcome Jiang Tian. Tan Guangxu looked at the time and smiled. The location of the dinner was the best hotel in Qixia County, Qixia Hotel. But it was only a 4-star hotel. Although the decoration was luxurious, it was filled with the aura of a nouveau riche. Not to mention Yangcheng, it couldn't even be compared to Linzhou. Su Province's economy had developed well in the 1990s. But now, it was far behind Lingnan and Zhonghai. What's more, Qixia County was only a small county. As the host and the guests sat down, Zhen Shuai glanced at Shen Mange. His eyes flickered with a sly light as he clicked his tongue in wonder. He lowered his voice and laughed. Jiang Tian, it seems that you're developing well in Linzhou. This secretary seat is so smooth. If she were in our Qixia County, she would definitely be the #1 beauty. He squinted his eyes and laughed. If there's something to do during the day, the secretary will do it at night. Stop fooling around. Your sister-in-law is here. Jiang Tian was embarrassed. He was afraid that this guy would talk about the embarrassing incident of him picking up girls and fishing for rich guys. It would damage the glorious image he had painstakingly created in front of his beloved wife. Shen Mange, who was pouring tea for everyone, chuckled. Young Master Zhen, you're mistaken. I'm Jiang Tian's maid. Maid? Hearing this, Marshal Zhen couldn't believe it and stood there in a daze. This guy was originally a playboy. He immediately thought of 3 possibilities and laughed. Oh, the woman who serves you at night? You often do this kind of thing when you're in Jinling. Okay, stop talking nonsense. Let's eat and drink. Jiang Tian's head was filled with black lines. This guy had touched a sore spot. Seeing that Zhao Xueqing only smiled and wasn't angry, he felt relieved. Tan Guangxu was mature and steady. He and Jiang Tian talked about their parents' recent situation. However, Marshal Zhen was very talkative and talked about everything. Jiang Tian, I've successfully entered the circle of Jinling's young masters. Marshal Zhen's face was red from drinking. He boasted, I've drunk with Jinling's young master Sun Hao a few times. His business is very big. Compared to him, my business pales in comparison. Marshal Zhen's personality was lively. He used to work in the armed police. After he retired, he didn't follow his father's arrangement and became a police officer. Instead, he started doing business in Jinling and Qixia County. Earth, stone, sand, metal, pipes, and so on. He made a lot of money. Hearing the two words Sunhao, Jiang Tian's handsome face was covered in a layer of frost. He clenched his fist, and with a crack the cup shattered. His eyes were filled with killing intent. In his previous life, it was one of the three major families, the Sun family, that forced the Medicine King group to go bankrupt. Even the car accident on the highway might have been caused by him. This hatred had tormented Jiang Tian for 10,000 years. Whenever he thought about it, his hatred would reach the heavens and the demon in his heart would be deeply planted. In this life, when I return, I'll make sure you're in a life and death situation and destroy your family. Chapter 145. The young master of Jinling's Sun family? He's in the real estate business, right? Tan Guangxiu, who had been quietly eating, suddenly asked. That's right, it's him. Zhen Shuai smiled. Those young masters basically drive sports cars like Maserati and Lamborghini. It's embarrassing to put my Porsche Cayenne in front of them. Tan Guangxiu's face turned gloomy as he frowned. Don't you know that he has a real estate project in Wuxia County? Zhen Shuai smiled awkwardly as his eyes turned gloomy. He has so many projects that I can't even count them all. How would I know? Seeing this, Jiang Tian silently drank a cup of wine and sighed in his heart. Looks like Zhen Shuai isn't doing well in Jinling. You've suffered a lot. Zhen Shuai, you better stay away from Sunhao. He's not a good person. Tan Guangxiu said solemnly as he gently placed the teacup on the table. What do you mean? Zhen Shuai was puzzled. Tan Guangxiu's face sank as he frowned. Do you know why Jiang Tian's mother has been so worried recently? It's because of this Sunhao. Why is my mother worried? Jiang Tian asked with a frown. In his previous life, he only went back to clean up the mess after the Jiang family was completely destroyed. As for the details, he wasn't clear about it. So it's like this. Hearing Tan Guangxiu's words, Jiang Tian finally understood. Wuxia Pharmaceutical Factory was the place where the Medicine King Corporation was founded. It was also one of the largest research bases. But in this era, TCM was declining and its profits were limited. On the other hand, real estate was developing rapidly. Jinling's Sun family's Dynasty Real Estate Group had long set their eyes on the pharmaceutical factory. Dynasty Real Estate Group controlled the Tiandan Pharmaceutical Company and ordered 100 million worth of goods from Zhang Wanqing with a deadline of 3 months. And if they violated the contract and couldn't guarantee the quality of the goods, they would have to pay a compensation of 1 billion. This year, the Medicine King Corporation's products weren't selling well under the pressure of the Qin family's herbal group. Zhang Wanqing was naturally very happy to receive this order. She used all the funds of the branch company to purchase raw materials and started the production at full capacity. Unexpectedly, when the goods were delivered a month ago, CEO Ma of Tianduan Pharmaceutical was picky. He took out the test results of the Provincial Food and Drug Administration and said that the product did not meet the standards. He refused to accept it and demanded 1 billion yuan in compensation. He even sued Zhang Wanqing in court. With the support of Sun Hao, who had a powerful background and had bribed everyone. How could Zhang Wanqing not lose the case? He had to pay $1 billion in compensation, and he also had to pay $100 million for the goods. One had to know that it was 2007. 1 billion was a huge sum of compensation for the Medicine King Group, whose capital chain was already in jeopardy. They could not afford it at all. The Tianyan Group offered to dismantle the Wuxia Pharmaceutical Factory and compensate the Tianyan Group with land. Only now did Zhang Wanqing and the others realize that Sunhao was behind all of this. However, the lawsuit had already been lost. Zhang Wanqing and the Jiang family were helpless and could only wait for them to forcefully demolish the building. Hearing this, Jiang Tian completely recalled everything. He clenched his fists and his face became as gloomy as water. His father being framed and imprisoned, and the forced demolition of the Wuxia Pharmaceutical Factory, had all happened during this period. His father was still a county magistrate, and could still say a few words in the standing committee. If Sun Hao wanted to get this piece of land, he must first get rid of his father, who was the biggest obstacle. Originally, Under the attack of the Chun family of Jinling and the Herbal Group, the Medicine King Group was already in imminent danger. The forced demolition of the Shixia pharmaceutical factory, the most important production base, along with the destruction of the scientific research equipment and many patented formulas purchased at a high price, was the last straw that broke the Medicine King Group's back. Son, how is it? In my previous life, you repeatedly humiliated me and beat my Jiang family, until we couldn't fight back. This time, when I return, I must consign you to eternal damnation, and put you in a dilemma between life and death. A sharp murderous intent flashed in Jiang Tian's eyes. This Sun Hao is actually such a bastard. After hearing this, Zhen Shuai was so angry that he slammed the table and said angrily, Zhen Shuai, what I mean is, if you and Sun Hao are familiar with each other, can you ask him to give you a way out? After 2 years of experience in the officialdom, Tan Guangxiu had become very calm. When considering problems, he pointed out the pros and cons. He was flexible and put his emotions at the back. Zhen Shuai suddenly took a sip of white wine, and his face turned red. He looked at the dreary night scene outside the window, and was silent for a long time. Then he lowered his head and said with an ashen face, Little Tian Guangxiu, actually I was lying to you. Without waiting for Tan Guangxiu to ask, Zhen Shuai laughed at himself and said, At that time, I saw Sun Hao at an underground racing track in Jinling. I wanted to participate in the race, but he slapped me and said that I came from a small place and that my car was too bad. I didn't deserve to play with them. His hands were slightly trembling as he said with a trembling voice, At that time, my girlfriend was there. I wanted to fight back, but I didn't dare. Tears rolled down his face as he bitterly said, I originally thought that my father was a bureau chief in Qixia County. But I never expected that in the eyes of those young masters in Jinling, I'm nothing. I'm not even qualified to be their underling. Tan Guangxiu gently sighed as he handed over a tissue and said, Don't cry. You're just like a woman. Zhen Shuai wiped his tears and smiled. That's right. I was just bragging. Now that I've spoken the truth, I feel much better. If you guys want to laugh at me, then laugh at me. Tan Guangxiu pondered for a brief moment before he patted Zhen Shuai's shoulder and said, If you really can't do it, then don't go to Jinling. Isn't your hometown good enough? Zhen Shuai shook his head and sighed. My father is going to retire this year. When the time comes, no one will give face to my father. How am I going to do business? He gritted his teeth and said, I must take root in Jinling. One day, I will climb above their heads. I will give that bastard son a slap, and give him a good scolding. Sun Hao, right? I'll make him kneel before you and apologize within a week. Jiang Tian's eyes flickered with a cold light as he slowly said, Holy shit, Jiang Tian, I'm convinced by your domineeringness. You even dare to hit a young master in Yanjing. So what are those bastards in Jinling? Zhen Shuai was delighted. He raised his glass and clinked it with Jiang Tian's before gulping it down. Naturally, Zhen Shuai only treated it as Jiang Tian's words. Back then, Jiang Tian was expelled from Jinling, because he offended a powerful figure. So how could he dare to provoke Sun Hao? Sun Hao was a young master in Jinling with a powerful background. Even the entire Jiang family couldn't afford to offend him. Jiang Tian couldn't fall in the same place twice. Otherwise he would be a fool. Jiang Tian, don't be impulsive. Tan Guangxiu took it seriously. He frowned and advised, From what I know, Sun Hao is different from Chen Bo and the others. It's said that this person's background is very complicated. He controls a society and has guns in his hands. Jiang Tian didn't find this strange. In 2007, Huaxia's business circle was still in the stage of barbaric growth. The rule of law wasn't perfect, and those involved in real estate were often inextricably linked to local societies. Seeing his old friend's anxious face, Jiang Tian nodded and said, I understand. Don't worry. The atmosphere was a little heavy. Jiang Tian started to talk about some interesting childhood stories with them, and everyone's mood gradually relaxed. In Qixia County, Chen Zhenming and Cheng Yi were also very close to Jiang Tian. However, the two of them didn't develop in Qixia County. Chen Zhenming was the most promising among their brothers. After high school, his family arranged for him to go to university in America. Now he had less contact with them and hadn't come back even once in a few years. In fact, in his previous life, after the Jiang family's situation, Jiang Tian had contacted Chen Jinming, who worked at Tiger Fund Corporation on Wall Street. And Chen Jinming really did come back with the title of an elite on Wall Street. He pulled in investments from investors all over the world to save the Medicine King Group. But at that time, the fundamentals of the Medicine King Group were already broken. Although Chen Jinming was quite talented in finance and spent a lot of effort, even losing tens of millions of USD, the Medicine King Group was still controlled by the other three big families in Jinling. It was because of his apology and gratitude to Chen Jinming that Jiang Tian, who knew that the financial crisis in America was coming, made an overseas call to Chen Jinming in May of this year, asking him to short American subprime real estate mortgage bonds. With Chen Jinming's shrewdness and good judgment, he should have made a lot of money from this subprime mortgage crisis. And Cheng Yi's background was even more mysterious. When the Jiang family was in danger, he once told Jiang Tian that there might be martial artists behind them. He even suggested using special methods to help Jiang Tian. But at that time, Jiang Tian didn't know about the existence of these things. When he told his family, they politely refused. Haha, General Guangxiu. I saw General Zhen's Lao Ziqian coming in from downstairs. You are all here. The three brothers were chatting happily when suddenly, the door was pushed open and a fat man with a big belly walked in with a mocking face. Beside him, there was a tall and beautiful woman who was still wearing a miniskirt in the cold of autumn. The girl's small face was exquisitely made up. She had big watery eyes, bright red lips, big breasts, a thin waist, and a seductive curve from her waist to her crotch. Her legs were also slender and straight, comparable to snow. In this small town, she looked particularly fashionable and youthful, like a crane in a flock of chickens. She was very eye-catching. Seeing them, Jiang Tian's eyes flickered slightly, but he didn't have much reaction. He calmly sipped his tea. This fat man was Zhao Wuji, the son of the county party secretary Zhao Junlin. When he was young, he was the king of the children in the county party's courtyard, while Jiang Tian and the others were from the county party's courtyard. Since kindergarten, he had been fighting with Jiang Tian and the other children. In high school, this guy was jealous of Jiang Tian and was almost chopped to death by Jiang Tian. Since then, the two groups often had conflicts. According to Jiang Tian's memory, this guy started a construction company in Qixia County. The company wasn't big, but under his father's care, he made a lot of money and had tens of millions of assets. He was really one of the richest tycoons in the area. In his previous life, this guy often bullied Jiang Tian, but in Jiang Tian's eyes, it was just a harmless joke. There was no deep hatred between them. Jiang Tian had been cultivating for 10,000 years and had seen too many ups and downs. Why would he care about a passerby like him? My car is old, your car is new. What's so great about driving a Mercedes-Benz? Get out of here, you're not welcome here. The mature Tan Guangxiu only smiled and didn't say anything. However, Zhen Shuai's face was full of disdain, and his eyes were about to fly out of his eye sockets. Zhen Shuai, I'm here to tell you something. Talk to Jiang Tian's mother, and ask her to give up the land. It won't be good if there's a forced demolition. Zhao Wuji was a very boring and thick-skinned person. He wasn't angry. In fact, the angrier you were, the happier he was. At that moment, the young girl behind Zhao Wuji pulled his sleeve and said coquettishly, Look at who that is. Oh my God. Isn't this the great playboy of Jiang Tian? I heard that you're so awesome that you beat up some young master in Yanjing. Now you're so awesome that you're in outer space? Why are you back? Zhao Wuji suddenly slapped his thigh and said sarcastically. As a result, even after Jiang Tian had gone to university, many years after the incident, Jiang Tian was still known as the person who had taken Tang Jialin's virginity during class gatherings. When Jiang Tian had said those words in front of Tang Jialin's boyfriend, it was inevitable that she would overthink it and get angry. However, Jiang Tian didn't take this matter to heart and continued to chat with the two brothers. They drank until 11 o'clock at night, when the restaurant was about to close. Only then did the drinking session end. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, they drove home. Shinmage suddenly looked at the rearview mirror and smiled. Interesting, those two cars have been following us. Yes, it's Fatty Zhao and Tang Jialan. They also brought 7 or 8 thugs. Jiang Tian had already sensed it. He smiled faintly and said, "Then drive the car to Mount Wu and play with them." "Master, they're just people from the secular world. It's not good to kill them like this." Shinmage pondered for a moment and said softly, "Besides, Madam is here watching." "You're wrong. They're not the target. There's another car following us." Jiang Tian smiled faintly and sighed. "There are a few real masters in that car." "Okay." Shinmage finally noticed that there was a commercial car following them from afar. She nodded, adjusted the navigation, and drove towards Mount Wu in the northern suburbs. In the Mercedes-Benz behind them, Tang Jialan's fiery gaze almost shot through the Chevrolet in front of them and burned Jiang Tian alive. She said angrily, "Why don't we just let my dad investigate his dad? Isn't it too easy for him to beat him up?" "Lin, you can't do that. That's killing him." Zhao Wuji smiled and said, "After all, we're from the same place. How can we be so ruthless? We just need to vent our anger. Then we must break one of his legs. Anyway, he's in the Jiang family now. His uncle doesn't care about him, and his grandma doesn't love him. No one cares." Tang Jialan waved her fists and said angrily, "Don't worry. These brothers of mine are very popular in Xixia. Just wait and see. Jiang Tian will definitely kneel down and apologize to you." Zhao Wuji said with a proud smile as he picked up a soft Chunghua cigarette and started smoking. At the end of the mountain road in Mount Wu, the mountain road ahead was cut off. This place was deserted and was close to the wilderness. Shinmage stopped the car, and Jiang Tian got out. Tang Jialan jumped out of the car. Surrounded by a few strong men, she arrogantly approached Jiang Tian. She pointed at Jiang Tian and scolded, "Jiang Tian, kneel down and apologize to me. Otherwise I'll kill you. Don't be so reckless. There will be masters coming later. Don't scare you when I kill them." Jiang Tian waved his hand and smiled. "What masters are coming? You're going to kill them?" Tang Jialan was slightly taken aback. "Then," she said with disdain, "are you bragging, or have you been scared silly by me?" In his opinion, Jiang Tian was just a good-for-nothing young master who had lost his power. He was just a piece of trash that could be easily manipulated by him. Killing people, was that a joke? That was a prison sentence. Jiang Tian dared to do it? Tang Jialan, who was born in an ordinary cadre family, had a normal way of thinking. She believed that Jiang Tian could fight, but she didn't believe Jiang Tian's words at all. "Sister Lin, don't talk nonsense with him. I'm going to cut his hamstring," one of the strong men said fiercely with a sharp knife in his hand. At this moment, Jiang Tian looked at the dense forest on the mountain peak and said coldly, "Aren't you tired after following me all the way? Hurry up and come out. I still have to take care of you and go back to sleep with my wife." "Where is he? Is he crazy? He's just bluffing. Hurry up and kill him." Everyone glanced at the dense forest and found nothing unusual. Then, they pointed at Jiang Tian and scolded him. "Master Kong is indeed powerful. The old man is here." Suddenly, a chilling aura came toward them. A few people slowly walked out of the dense forest. The leader of the group was a skinny, dark-skinned man in his 50s. He wore a loose yellow monk's robe and wore hemp shoes on his bony feet. He held an alms bowl in one hand and a pitch-black monk's staff in the other. If Huaxia's Dharma spell masters were here, they would have screamed in fear. He was the #1 evil monk in Southeast Asia, Bong of Kuantian. His Dharma spell mastery had reached the level of initial ethereal enlightenment. He was an expert in dark arts such as Tame Head. He could kill people from 100 miles away with Tame Head. The other person had a muscular upper body with lumps of meat sticking out. His skin looked like it was carved out of metal, shining with a strange luster. His sturdy arms were wrapped with hemp ropes, and his tiger-like eyes were bursting with light. His eyes were as gloomy as the devil's. He was unusually tall, and his aura was domineering like a tiger that had just been released from its cage. It was unforgettable. If there was a martial arts expert here, he would also be terrified. This person was the ancient Muay Thai master Meng Kong. He had once dominated the underground boxing arena in Southeast Asia, and had never lost a fight. His strength was comparable to Wuxia's physique refinement grandmaster. Besides them, there was also a young man who wore casual clothes and carried a treasured sword on his back. He had an otherworldly temperament, and he was the eldest disciple of Star Continent's #1 expert, Wang Chongyan Fan Tian. Jiang Tian did not know these three people, but he recognized the girl behind them. He immediately put his hands behind his back and sneered. Guilili, why are you following me? You followed me all the way from Linzhou to Jin City. Don't tell me you like me? Jiang Tian said disdainfully. Don't get your hopes up. It's hopeless. You're too ugly and bad-tempered. You can't be compared to my wife. Humph, why would I like a barbarian like you? Guilili hated Jiang Tian so much that the roots of her teeth itched when she saw him. Now that she saw him teasing her, she was so angry that her whole body trembled. Her pretty face immediately turned cold. She ground her fine silver teeth and sneered. I told you long ago that I'm not someone you can afford to offend. But in White Ape Valley, you disrespected me time and time again, and even dared to hit me. Today, your death date has arrived. She raised her chin proudly and said, Brat, hurry up and hand over those life crystals. Otherwise, I'll kill you. You want to rob me? You can try. I'll slap you to death. Jiang Tian spat on his hands and laughed evilly. Bong of Kuan Tian said calmly, Benefactor Jiang, the heavens are virtuous. Why are you so unreasonable? The head of the Guo family is seriously ill. Only life crystals can save him. If you give one to Miss Guo, we'll definitely reward you handsomely. Otherwise what? Jiang Tian smiled faintly. You've seen it for yourself. Our Xingzhou police's top 3 experts are here. Killing you will be like killing a dog. Bong of Kuan Tian said with a sinister smile. Wuxia is a lawful society. There are police officers here. Murder and arson? Where do you think this is? His father is the local deputy mayor. Mine is the deputy director of Jin City's disciplinary committee. We just need to make a phone call, and the police will come to arrest you. When Tang Jialan saw that a group of people had suddenly rushed over and hindered her from taking care of Jiang Tian, especially Guilili, who was more fashionable and beautiful than herself, she immediately became angry. Where did you come from, wild girl? You're behaving atrociously in our Qixia County. Hurry up and get lost. Haha, so funny. Guilili almost burst out laughing when she heard that. She said disdainfully, a little deputy county head and a deputy department head are nothing. Do you know that even the mayor of Jinling City has to bow his head when he sees the Guo family? Tang Jialan was used to flaunting her power in Jin City and Qixia County. How could she endure Guilili's anger? She waved her hand impatiently and said, Wu Lin beat her. Wu Lin was the guy with the sharp knife. He was Zhao Wuji's #1 hired thug. Normally, his combat strength was quite strong. Now that he heard his mistress's order, he immediately pointed the knife at Guilili and approached her. He scolded. Little bitch, are you going to get out or not? Don't get in the way of me beating people. If you dawdle here, we'll take turns and ruin your face. Noisy. Meng Kong's eyes flickered with an ominous glint. He leaped forward and slapped Wu Lin's head. Bang! At this moment, balls of blood filled the air and filled everyone's mouths and noses. Everyone only saw Wu Lin's head explode like a rotten watermelon. Chapter 147. I am my God. Wu Lin's companions were terrified to the point they cried out involuntarily, their souls leaving their bodies as they trembled. Clang! Clang! With a few clangs, weapons such as daggers and knives all fell to the ground from fright. Normally, they only abused their power in this small county. Fighting in groups and bullying the common people was still possible, but killing and plundering was something they didn't even dare think about. The scene before their eyes had completely exceeded their expectations. Smashing a person's head into pieces with a raise of his hand. This was simply extremely vicious. Could it be that he didn't have the slightest concept of the law? Quickly run. Tang Jialan was terrified to the point her beautiful face went ghastly pale. Then she got into the Mercedes-Benz in a sorry state and urged anxiously, "Zhao Yuanji, quickly start the car." Zhao Yuanji, who was originally hiding in the car with the intention of watching a good show, had long since been scared out of his wits, and he immediately started the car in a flurry when he saw this. The Mercedes-Benz was like an agile cheetah as it emitted a wave of low and powerful roars as it madly dashed out. Meng Kong, stop them. Don't let them call the police. Ba Song of Heaven shouted in a low voice. Although they were strong, they were foreigners after all. If they were to start a massacre in Wuxia, they would surely encounter the military and police's siege, and it would be rather troublesome. Yes. Meng Kong replied. Then his long legs moved and he'd already shot out explosively like an arrow, catching up to the Mercedes-Benz like a galloping horse. He stood before the car with steady footsteps, seeming to be extremely relaxed as he raised his hand and shouted, "Stop. I'll kill you." At this moment, how could Zhao Yuanji care about anything else? He steeled his heart, clenched his teeth, and stepped on the accelerator to the max, causing the car to suddenly accelerate. Rumble. An enormous sound echoed out as the Mercedes-Benz collided with Meng Kong's legs. However, he only took a step back, and his feet firmly plunged into the asphalt road, forcefully causing the Mercedes-Benz to turn off and stop. The Mercedes-Benz seemed as if it collided with a large mountain as its four wheels flew into the air, then heavily fell down. The bumper and hood were severely deformed and damaged, and the front of the car emitted billowing black smoke. Oh my God, is he still human? Zhao Yuanji was scared to the point that his face went pale. The fat on his entire body ceaselessly trembled as he tightly hugged Tang Jialin, who was scared to the point tears streamed down her face. Whoever dares to run will die. Kneel. Meng Kong laughed savagely as he swept his gaze around the surroundings. Everyone was so frightened that they stopped in their tracks and knelt down on the ground one after another. All of them trembled and didn't even dare to move. Master Kuan Tian, Senior Meng Kong, please capture this brat and force him to hand over the life crystals. Seeing this, Guo Lily's face was filled with pride as she shouted, "Miss Guo, don't be in such a hurry. I want to rape you first." Meng Kong looked at Tang Jialin, whose appearance was so beautiful that it could be said that she was a peerless stunner, and laughed nastily. He smashed the glass window with one fist, and like an eagle catching a little chick, he carried her out of the car. Then hurry up. Guo Lily saw this and did not stop him. Instead, she urged him. She knew that not only was Meng Kong bloodthirsty, he was also lustful, and it was very difficult to stop him. Moreover, this damned girl had been disrespectful to her time and time again, causing her to burn with anger. At this moment, she was actually happy to see this happen. Help! Help! Her clothes were torn apart by Meng Kong in a few moves, and Tang Jialin was frightened to the point her beautiful face turned pale as she trembled and screamed shrilly. Suddenly, she saw Jiang Tian standing there leisurely, and she hurriedly shouted, "Jiang Tian, save me. Didn't you say that you could kill them? If you save me, I'll accompany you to sleep. I'm still a virgin." Actually, she also didn't believe that Jiang Tian could deal with these terrifying experts. But now, the hired thugs were frightened to the point they knelt on the ground, and Zhao Yuanji was frightened to the point he wet his pants. Only Jiang Tian was standing there, and was especially conspicuous. Even if there was only a trace of hope, she still had to grab onto it like a drowning person grabbing onto a life-saving straw. Seeing this, Jiang Tian lightly sighed. Meng Kong, is it? What ability does bullying a weak girl count as? If you still don't stop, I'll kill you. Stinking brat, you're too presumptuous. When Meng Kong heard these words, he instantly flew into a rage. He pulled up his pants and cast a sidelong glance at Jiang Tian. Do you know that my ancient Muay Thai has already reached perfection, and is comparable to your grandmaster's? Killing you is like killing a chicken. Crocodile tail whip. He shouted out explosively, then stomped down towards Jiang Tian, and rushed over explosively. A high whip kick swept towards Jiang Tian's neck. Ancient Muay Thai was known for its ferocious and violent attack power. Moreover, as an ancient inheritance, the condensed inner strength was abnormally strong. Subsequently, his leg violently swept out, and a crocodile formed from inner strength condensed behind him. This crocodile belonged to a primordial variant called the spiked crocodile. Its pupils were like needles, icy cold to the point it didn't contain the slightest trace of warmth. Saliva flowed from the corners of its mouth, and its sharp teeth were dense. Its entire body was black and shiny like armor, and on its back was a row of green spikes that were as thick as an infant's arm. Its long tail was like a steel whip as it swept towards Jiang Tian. What the hell is this thing? Heavens, why did a crocodile appear? Zhao Yuanji and the group of companions were all dumbstruck from shock. Their eyes dazzled and their minds shook as they utterly didn't dare believe their eyes. Jiang Tian, be careful. Tang Jialin cried out involuntarily and instinctively closed her eyes, not daring to look at the scene of Jiang Tian being kicked to death. She wasn't some great evil person. She only liked to throw her young mistemper and flaunt her strength. She wasn't willing to see Jiang Tian die an unnatural death. As far as she was concerned, Jiang Tian was only a profligate young master that didn't have the strength to truss up a chicken. No matter what, he wasn't a match for Meng Kong, who was strong like a rhinoceros or an elephant. Although Meng Kong's ancient Muay Thai is condensed with inner strength, it's comparable to the true qi of a grandmaster in the martial Tao of Wuxia. When he saw this, Bong of Heaven of Earth put his palms together with an expression of admiration. As far as he was concerned, Meng Kong couldn't kill Jiang Tian on the spot, but he would absolutely be able to injure Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian, now you know the ability of my Gua clan, right? Gua Lily was immensely complacent as she gritted her teeth and shouted coldly, seeming as if Jiang Tian would be deader than dead in the next moment. Is that so? Is your fleshly body very strong? Let me see exactly how strong it is. I want to use this pair of hands to smash your head into pieces. Jiang Tian smiled indifferently, then rolled up his sleeves to reveal a hand that was even more delicate than a girl's, and was crystalline and translucent to the point it seemed as if it was carved from jade. Subsequently, Jiang Tian greeted it with an extremely simple punch. Boom. Fist and leg collided together. Meng Kong's right leg that seemed as if it was cast from iron was like paper that shattered with a bang. Fresh blood gushed out like a tide. Immense flesh and broken bones scattered out in all directions like a celestial maiden scattering flowers. Under the bombardment of Jiang Tian's boundless strength, Meng Kong's thick body that was tall like a mountain flew up weightlessly like a rag doll. Meng Kong was still screaming miserably in midair when Jiang Tian had already followed up with a step. Then his left palm slapped down and directly slapped Meng Kong's head into his abdomen. Along with Jiang Tian's palm slapping down, Meng Kong's body split apart and fell in all directions. Whereas Jiang Tian's white clothes weren't stained with blood, as if all of this had never happened. In the blink of an eye, the #1 ancient Muay Thai expert, Meng Kong, died. The entire scene was deathly silent, and everyone was dumbstruck. Oh my God! Is this still human? Why is this fellow so formidable now? Zhao Wuji and the others were shocked to the point they were dumbstruck. They didn't dare believe it, and they were terrified to the point their souls almost left their bodies. Although they were only ordinary people, they were still able to discern how formidable Meng Kong was, as he was a terrifying existence that even a Mercedes-Benz couldn't kill. But he was actually slapped to death by Jiang Tian's palm. If Jiang Tian's palm slapped onto their bodies earlier, they would probably have instantly become a pile of minced meat. How is this possible? Bassoon of Kuan Tian turned pale with fright as well. It was impossible for the ancient Muay Thai that Meng Kong cultivated to produce true qi, but it was able to develop inner strength that was comparable to a physique refinement grandmaster. Even if Jiang Tian was a physique refinement grandmaster, it was still impossible for him to kill Meng Kong so easily. Oh my God, this kid's strength is so strong. Gua Lily's heart skipped a beat as she hid behind Bassoon of Kuan Tian. However, Bassoon of Kuan Tian was Southeast Asia's #1 evil monk after all, and he was used to big battles. After a moment of shock, he quickly calmed down and said in a deep voice, Jiang Tian, you're indeed strong enough. No wonder you can dominate Jiang Bei at such a young age, and Master Kang's name is known all over the world. But you only have some achievements in martial arts, and you're definitely not a match for this poor monk's heavenly spells. He sneered proudly and said, I'm proficient in Kumanthong, ghost arts, tame head, and the other top 10 evil arts in Nanyang. Within 10 steps, I can kill you as easily as killing a chicken. Hee hee, demons and monsters, you're just a clown. You have the nerve to call yourself a master. Jiang Tian's face was calm, and he didn't take it to heart at all. Jiang Tian, you're so arrogant. Bassoon of Kuan Tian's face darkened as he shouted coldly. I respect you, that's why I call you Master Kong. If I don't respect you, who do you think you are? You're just the tyrant of Jiangbei. Do you know how many martial artists like you I've killed? You talk too much. If you want to fight, then hurry up. I still have to go home and drink soup. Jiang Tian sneered and said, Look at you, you look like a monkey. You came out to scare people in the middle of the night. All right, as you wish. Bassoon of Kuan Tian almost vomited blood because of Jiang Tian's poisonous tongue. The staff in his hand shook, and a few thumb-sized dolls fell from the golden ring. The dolls grew bigger with the wind, and immediately became a few pink, chubby and cute little girls. However, they changed shape as soon as they rolled on the ground. They had green faces and fangs, and red light shot out from their deep-set eye sockets. Their bodies and arms were disproportionate, and their arms were so long that they reached below their knees and touched the instep. They looked like monkeys. Kumanthong's entire body was made of white bones, and its skin and flesh were dry. Black and yellow corpse oil kept dripping down and it stank. However, one could not tell that the skeleton was fragile. It seemed very powerful, especially on those dense white bones. There were countless faintly floating and circulating incantations. Traces of terrifying and strange aura were emitted from the flowing incantations. Anyone who saw it would know that this terrifying demonic creature was not to be trifled with. What is this? Tang Jialin was so scared that her face turned pale. She covered her mouth and exclaimed, Is this an evil spirit? It's too scary. Master, please spare our lives. We're just bystanders. Please let us go. Zhao Yuanji and his companions were also trembling in fear. They knelt on the ground and kowtowed. If there was a spell master here, he would definitely be scared out of his wits. This Kumanthong was extremely fast. It appeared and disappeared, and when it launched a fatal attack, no martial artist or spell master could lock onto it. It was really impossible to guard against. Master Bassoon, is this Kumanthong? It's really powerful. Guo Lily was very afraid of Jiang Tian just now, but when Bassoon of Kuan Tian used the Kumanthong's secret technique, she immediately became 100 times more confident. That's right. Bassoon of Kuan Tian stood proudly with a Zen staff in his hand. He sneered and said, I killed 9 babies, then wrapped them in a cloth with scriptures written on it. I wrote spells on the babies' bodies and placed them on the sacred fire for 49 days, to become a Kumanthong doll. These Kumanthongs have powerful Dharma powers, and are invulnerable. They don't feel any pain and can eat souls. Even a master of the transcendent state would not be able to resist them. Everyone was shocked when they heard that. They felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. Chapter 148. Killing babies cruelly and roasting them into thumb-sized puppets wrapped in scriptures. How cruel and terrifying was that? Mange, what is this? It looks so scary. In the Chevrolet, Zhao Xueqing asked curiously with a frown. This is called Kumanthong. Shen Mange had a certain understanding of spells after all, so she immediately explained. Kumanthong meant golden child in Chinese. It was a strange holy object that had been passed down in Thailand for hundreds of years. It could bring considerable wealth to the person who supported it, but it was also very fierce and dangerous. On one hand, they had to find babies and kill them. The crueler the method, the stronger the resentment of the child, and the stronger the evil spirit could be created. Other than that, they had to carve runes and chant scriptures. Only then could the vengeful spirit listen to their orders. The monks in Thailand were called Venerable Father. Legend had it that the first Kumanthong was born from Venerable Father. However, later on, the process of making Kumanthong went against the monks' commandment not to kill. Therefore, some of the monks returned to the secular world and made Kumanthong, or learned the process from the secular world. These people were called Azan in Thailand, which meant teacher. They were special witchcraft masters or mages. Since then, the technique of making kumanthong became popular in Thailand. There were often cases of Asian killing children to make kumanthong. However, Asian was so powerful that even the police couldn't do anything about it. After hundreds of years of development, the kumanthong technique was getting stronger and stronger, and the evil spirits created were getting stronger and stronger. Jiang Tian run. Call the police. Tang Jialin was desperate. Jiang Tian was no match for him. Perhaps there was a chance of survival if she called the police. How dare you talk nonsense in front of me when you're just a little bit of zombie refinement? Jiang Tian shook his head in disdain. The heavenly earth pine tree's face turned green from Jiang Tian's anger. He pointed his staff at Jiang Tian and shouted. Kumanthong suddenly disappeared as if it had entered another space. The next moment, it appeared around Jiang Tian. Many kumanthongs opened their mouths and bared their fangs. They waved their long arms and clawed and bit at Jiang Tian. Their movements were extremely violent, and as fast as lightning. Thunder come. Jiang Tian held a piece of black wood in his hand and shouted in a calm tone. Immediately, bolts of lightning that were as thick as an arm appeared on the wood. They flickered like silver snakes dancing wildly and winding like pythons, striking towards the kumanthong in all directions. Fuck, so Jiang Tian is the god of thunder. Zhao Wuji's eyes were lifeless as he mumbled to himself. He saw a scene that he would never forget for the rest of his life. Thunder-type magic treasure. The heavenly earth pine tree, who had been confident of victory, shrieked as if his chrysanthemum had burst. Thunder and lightning were extremely strong and vigorous, with a temperature of 10,000 degrees and extremely violent. Regardless of whether it was thunder-type magical treasures or spells, they were the most difficult to master. In this world, there were only a handful of spell masters who could control lightning. However, lightning was the most effective against evil and filthy things. Although his kumanthong was powerful, it was like meeting its nemesis when it encountered a thunder-type magical treasure. At that moment, he wanted to summon the kumanthong back, but the lightning was too fast. Before he could send out an order, a few kumanthongs were turned into ashes by Jiang Tian's lightning and disappeared instantly. This, Guo Lily was so scared that her face turned pale. Her body trembled and she couldn't say a word. That was the kumanthong refined by the #1 evil monk in Southeast Asia. Heavenly Earth Pine Tree. He could even fight against an experienced transcendent grandmaster for a while. However, it was destroyed by Jiang Tian's attack. How terrifying and powerful was Jiang Tian. He can even control lightning. Looks like he's a calligraphy expert. In the next moment, Ba Song of the heavenly earth tapped his toes and shot down the mountain like an eagle without even turning around. He was running for his life. Guo Lily was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. She had guessed the beginning, but she would never have guessed the ending. She didn't expect that Bassoon of the heavenly earth would turn around and flee after just one round with Jiang Tian. She was petrified. However, Guo Lily didn't know the fear in heavenly earth pine tree's heart. He was scared out of his wits. This kid is a Dharma and martial arts cultivator. That's terrifying. Damn it. How could the Guo family's intelligence be wrong? They didn't know that he's proficient in Dharma spells and can control the most difficult lightning. I'm afraid that he's at least in the late stage of ethereal enlightenment, without a Tao body. A peerless overlord who cultivates both Dharma and martial arts in Jiangbei. This is unbelievable. It seems that only Wang Chongyan can suppress him. I'm definitely no match for him. The trees on both sides retreated quickly. Heavenly Earth Pine Tree's thoughts came one after another. As he ran for his life, he wailed and roared in his heart. Heavenly Earth Pine Tree, isn't it too late for you to run away now? Go to hell. Jiang Tian sighed and raised his hand to grab the thunder meteorite wood. A bolt of lightning appeared in his hand. He waved his hand and threw it out. He's following me? How can he be so fast? Heavenly Earth Pine Tree heard Jiang Tian's immortal will telepathy. In just a few seconds, he had already run a few hundred meters away. He turned around in shock. My life is over. The silver snake in his eyes grew bigger and bigger. Heavenly Earth Pine Tree's eyes were filled with fear and despair. It was too late for him to dodge. He could only let out a scream before he was completely engulfed by the lightning and turned into a pile of ashes. Guilili's heart skipped a beat. She trembled as if she had lost her parents. The last bolt of lightning that killed Heavenly Earth Pine Tree was as thick as a python and as fast as a wild dragon. It was a few hundred meters away. It was like the lightning that Thor shot out in Hollywood movies. She couldn't believe it. Brahma. Guilili looked at Brahma in a daze. After all, he was Wang Chongyan's disciple. She hoped that he could protect her and escape. Unexpectedly, Brahma didn't dare to resist at all. He knelt on the ground and kowtowed as if he was pounding garlic. He sobbed and said, "Disciple Brahma is wholeheartedly convinced. Please spare my lowly life, Master Kong." He was only an inner strength cultivator. If he fought with Jiang Tian again, it would be no different from showing off in front of an expert. Could it be that he's a god? Tang Jialin was dumbstruck. She muttered to herself with a lifeless gaze. Not to mention Jiang Tian, even Ming Kong's physical body that could shake a small car and condense a large crocodile was inconceivable to her. He was like a superhero in a Hollywood movie. When she saw Jiang Tian controlling lightning and throwing it, she felt even more inconceivable. She only felt that he was like a Buddha or a god in myths. As for Zhao Wuji, his intestines were green with regret. Lingering fear filled him as he trembled uncontrollably. What the hell was he doing? He actually fought with Jiang Tian for a woman, and even wanted to cripple him. Wasn't this courting death? Guilili, how should we settle this debt between us? Jiang Tian looked at Guilili and put away the thunder meteorite wood. This was something he obtained from Shenong School and refined into a thunder-type artifact. It could be used multiple times and was quite handy. I'm willing to use money to buy my life. An unprecedented sense of danger arose in Guilili's heart. She was so scared that her delicate body went limp. She staggered back as if she saw a demon god. Now in her eyes, Jiang Tian was really too terrifying. She was afraid that the entire Guo family wouldn't be able to stop him. Do you think I'll care about a mere amount of money? Jiang Tian smiled disdainfully and said indifferently, "That day in the valley, I warned you that if you dare to be disrespectful to me again, I'll annihilate your entire Guo family. Do you think I'm joking?" Guilili was so scared that she took a few steps back. She forced herself to calm down and said, "Master Kong, it's better to squash enmity than keep it alive. Master Kong may be powerful, but my Guo family's assets are hundreds of billions. We can do whatever we want in Singapore. We're on good terms with Master Wang Chongyan of the Singapore Club. We're not to be trifled with. Even if you're not afraid, what about your family, lovers, and friends? You dare to threaten me? Do you want to die?" Jiang Tian's face darkened and he flicked his finger. A silver lightning snake coiled around his fingers like an obedient kitten. Seeing this, Guilili was so scared that she knelt on the ground with a thud. Her delicate body trembled violently and tears fell like rain. She said in a trembling voice, "Master Kong, I'm not threatening you at all. I'm just stating the facts." Suddenly, she had an idea. She hugged Jiang Tian's legs and rubbed her full breasts against Jiang Tian's calf. She raised her tear-stained face and put on a pitiful expression. She tried to use a gentle attack and pleaded, "Jiang Tian, as long as you don't kill me, I'm willing to be your woman. I'll listen to you and treat you gently. When the time comes, you'll be in control of the Guo family in Nanyang. Isn't that great?" The Guo family. She's Guilili from the Guo family in Nanyang. She came here to invest some time ago. Suddenly, Tang Jialin exclaimed. Her beautiful eyes widened and her face was filled with disbelief. Her full breasts rose and fell violently. The Guo family in Nanyang. She heard that they were worth hundreds of billions and had a powerful background. Now the daughter of the Guo family was going to be Jiang Tian's wife. This Jiang Tian is too lucky, isn't he? Zhao Yuanji also came to his senses. He could not believe it and was filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. Originally, he had captured Tang Jialin's heart and was rather proud of himself. He thought that he had won over Jiang Tian. Now he realized that this woman had such a powerful background. Compared to Guilili, Tang Jialin was instantly overshadowed. It was like a chicken meeting a phoenix. "You vulgar women are so ugly. You always like to seduce others with your looks. How ridiculous. Jiang Tian kicked her away and said mockingly, "Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror? Do you deserve to be my woman? You don't even deserve to be my slave or maid." Jiang Tian, you. Guo Lily was instantly embarrassed. Her face was flushed red, but when she thought about it carefully, she realized that it was true. With Jiang Tian's power, he was probably on par with Wang Chongyan. She was indeed not worthy. In the Chevrolet, Zhao Xueqing noticed that Shen Mange's face was red and she was sweating. He could not help but ask with concern, "Mange, are you okay?" I'm fine. Shen Mange smiled awkwardly. She could not help but think of what Jiang Tian said in Mount Gaoyuo City. Her heart was filled with bitterness. Jiang Tian pondered for a moment and suddenly said, "You've provoked me time and time again. 100 deaths are not enough to atone for your sins. I can spare your life, but I can't let you go." Chapter 149. Master Kong, please speak. Guo Lily saw a ray of hope, and was instantly like a drowning person grabbing onto a straw. Her face was filled with excitement. "How about this? My father has been attracting investments recently and needs political achievements. Get Nanyang's Guo family to invest 10 billion here." Jiang Tian said indifferently, "Okay, no problem." Guo Lily thought for a moment and agreed. With her ability, it was a little difficult to move the Guo family's investment of 10 billion, but it was not impossible if she worked hard. "Also, you Guo Lily still owe me 10 billion. Prepare it, I'll go get it at any time." Jiang Tian said leisurely. 10 billion, Jiang Tian. Do you know what 10 billion means?" Guo Lily was instantly a little frantic. It was true that the Guo family was rich, but most of it was hotels, real estate, ships, mines, and other fixed assets. Their liquid capital was only 10 billion. This is the price of 2 lives. Other than your life, there's also your grandfather's. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and took out a medicinal pill. "If you agree, this medicinal pill can help your grandfather extend his lifespan by 10 years. "Really?" Guo Lily did not dare to believe it. If it was calculated like this, it was actually quite worth it. After all, they went to Shinong School to ask for medicine for her grandfather, and in the end, they had once offered a sky-high price of 5 billion. However, what the other party needed was great medicine and ancient treasures, not cash. Both parties did not come to an agreement. She took a deep breath and said, "If this medicinal pill is effective, I can agree. However, I don't have so much cash. I can write an IOU to you first." Speaking up to here, a crafty look flashed across her eyes. "And take the medicinal pill and prepare the contract tomorrow. Also, the investment is settled as soon as possible." Jiang Tian threw a concentrated vital essence pill to Guo Lily as if throwing away trash. Then he casually shot out a fireball talisman and burned Meng Kong's corpse and bloodstains into ashes. "Yes, I'll prepare everything." Guo Lily stood up and walked down the mountain, accompanied by Brahma. "Eldest miss, isn't 10 billion a little expensive? Also, do you really want to invest?" asked Fan Tian with a frown as he recovered from the shock and fear after walking a long distance and getting into the MPV. "There's no problem with the investment. Investing in Huaxia's mainland has always been the family's established strategy." Guo Lily's eyes flashed with craftiness as she snorted. "But does he have the ability to take away the 10 billion? It's just an empty check. With Wang Zhongyan in charge of Singapore, I'm afraid he won't even dare to ask for it." What they didn't know was that Jiang Tian was standing on the top of the mountain, looking down at the leaving MPV and snorting coldly. "You want to go back on your word? What a joke." In this world, the person who can renege on his debt to me, Kong Teichu, has yet to appear. These people are always arrogant and unscrupulous because they have 1 or 2 experts backing them up. Little did they know that I have already reached the mid-stage of qi refining. I can even kill a peak transcendent state grandmaster. When the time comes, I'll kill that meddlesome Wang Chongyan and take control of the Guo family and the entire Xing continent. Aren't you going to leave? Jiang Tian looked away and saw Zhao Wuji and Tang Jialan walking toward him, trembling in fear. Jiang Tian, I apologize to you. I was just joking with you. Please don't kill me. Zhao Wuji's legs were as weak as noodles. He wanted nothing more than to kneel down before Jiang Tian. That's enough, Yuanji. We grew up together. Don't take it to heart. Jiang Tian smiled. After Jiang Tian came back, his personality had become much more peaceful. He was a man who could distinguish between kindness and hatred. He no longer killed the innocent. Zhao Wuji was not a good person, but he was not evil either. He and Jiang Tian were not mortal enemies. As long as he didn't keep buzzing around him like a fly, Chen Fan would let him go. What was the point of killing an ant like him? Jiang Tian, I am a man of my words. You saved me. I am willing to be your woman. Tang Jialin said firmly. Fuck. Zhao Yuanji felt like he was being cheated on, but he thought it was only natural. He quickly said, That's right, Jiang Tian. If you are interested, let Jialin be with you. With a timid look in his eyes, he smiled embarrassedly and said, Don't despise her. Actually, nothing happened between us. We didn't even hold hands. That's right, Jiang Tian. I am still a virgin. I have always kept it for you. Tang Jialin immediately hugged Jiang Tian's arm and rubbed her full chest against him. She said with a pitiful look, Jiang Tian, you took my first kiss. Don't forget our past relationship. She looked at Jiang Tian with admiration. Jiang Tian, I know you are not an ordinary person. I don't ask for any status. I can be a concubine or a bed-warming maid. Don't be like this. Jiang Tian jumped back in fright. He saw Zhao Xueqing looking at him mockingly in the carriage. He suddenly felt a headache and said, Tang Jialin, please stay away from me. I have no feelings for you. Jiang Tian, how can you refuse a girl's deep feelings for you? I really like you. Tang Jialin hugged Jiang Tian's arm and stomped her feet. Do you want me to die? I will die in front of you. With that, she walked toward the edge of the cliff. Don't bother me, okay? Jiang Tian was extremely helpless and annoyed. He waved his hand and erased Tang Jialin's memory with his divine sense. This girl was also a blabbermouth. Otherwise, how could there be such a funny thing as him losing his virginity to her? He might as well erase her memory so that she wouldn't talk nonsense. Tang Jialin's face was dull, and her eyes were absent-minded for a moment. The next moment, she looked at Jiang Tian in fear and trembled. She said to Zhao Wuji, Wuji, let's go quickly. Although her memory was erased, she was still subconsciously afraid of Jiang Tian. Let's go quickly. She doesn't remember anything. Don't tell anyone about what happened today. Jiang Tian waved his hand at Zhao Wuji, who was at a loss. Jiang Tian, don't worry. Zhao Wuji also reached a new height. He nodded and smiled. From now on, you are my grandfather. As a grandson, how can I talk about my grandfather's matters? In this regard, Jiang Tian could only shake his head and smile bitterly. After solving this matter, it was already 2 o'clock in the morning. Jiang Tian couldn't wait and asked Shinmange to stay in a nearby hotel. He took Zhao Xueqing back to his hometown without stopping. The county's residence was built in the 1990s. The walls of the brick and concrete structure were covered with tacky red porcelain pieces. Many of them had already peeled off. It had been in disrepair for a long time, and the street lights were dim. It looked quite decayed. In fact, many of the county's leaders had bought a big house in a high-end building outside. However, Jiang Zhixing cherished his reputation and lived a simple life. He still lived in a small house with an area of 80 square meters. At this moment, the small chandelier in the living room sprinkled a bright yellow light that covered the coffee table, sofa, and other old furniture. It looked very warm and beautiful. Jiang Zhixing, who was always optimistic, looked worried and sighed. Wanqing, it's very troublesome this time. I received news that the Municipal Commission for Discipline Inspection suspects that there's a problem with the seedlings purchased by the garden. They said that there's a problem with the cooperation with the Provincial Academy of Agricultural Sciences. They might investigate me. Let them investigate, Zhang Wanqing said in a huff. Academician Yan of the Provincial Academy of Agricultural Sciences originally thought that the soil here wasn't suitable, so he didn't want to build the experimental base here. It was you who gave face to your old classmate and begged for it. Her face was cold as she coldly said, at that time, it was unanimously approved by the Standing Committee of the County Committee. Secretary Junlin was full of praise for you and praised you as a meritorious person. Now that there's a problem, he blames you and pushes all the blame to you, while he himself is clean. Jiang Zhixing sighed and fell into silence for a long time before he asked, "What about your factory?" "The first trial has already been decided." Zhang Wanqing, who had always been strong, couldn't bear it anymore. Tears rolled down her cheeks. These people are simply ruthless and ruthless. This factory is our life's work. She was heartbroken and blamed herself. She covered her face and suppressed her crying. "It's all my fault. I was too careless. I didn't even investigate that Tiandan Pharmaceutical is actually a company related to the Sun family. It's clearly a fire pit. Yet I still jumped into it." "Wanqing, you have to be strong and don't blame yourself." Jiang Zhixing hugged his wife in his arms and patted her shoulder. "You signed that contract for the development of the Medicine King Group. Besides, this attack wasn't aimed at you alone, but at the entire Jiang family." Jiang Zhixing's face was firm as he said, "But I believe that justice must exist. We will definitely get through this difficult time and reinvigorate ourselves." "Hubby, thank you. Thank you for supporting my work." Zhang Wanqing was moved. "What are you thanking me for? We've been husband and wife for so long. Don't say such childish words." Jiang Zhixing smiled gently and scratched her nose. "You're not old at all. In my eyes you're always so handsome." Zhang Wanqing smiled and couldn't help but think of the good times when they were studying together at Yenjing University. Her heart was full of charm and gentleness. "By the way, I have an idea." Jiang Zhixing hugged his wife's shoulder and comforted her for a while. Suddenly he said seriously, "Jiang Tian came back this time. Can you persuade him and Qing'er to go abroad?" "How can I do that? If I go abroad, I might not see him even once in a few years. Won't I miss him to death?" Zhang Wanqing suddenly refused. "Wanqing, I keep feeling that something is wrong. A storm is coming." Jiang Zhixing sighed and said with a deep gaze, "It'll be fine if we get through this difficult time. If we can't drag Tian'er down." Hearing this, Zhang Wanqing calmed down. She couldn't help but feel sad again. With tears in her eyes, she nodded and said in a trembling voice, "I understand. Pay attention to your words. This kid is a stubborn donkey. If he knows that the Jiang family is in danger, I'm afraid he won't be willing to leave." Jiang Zhixing said gently. When Jiang Tian rushed back to his hometown, Jiang Zhixing and his wife had already calmed down and concealed their emotions well. Jiang Zhixing was sitting on the old sofa, reading a book called Development Economics by Yang Shaokai, while Zhang Wanqing was watching the TV series, Golden Wedding. "Dad, Mom, I'm unfilial." Looking at his thin father with gray hair and a worried face, Jiang Tian could no longer control the surging emotions in his heart. He knelt on the ground with tears streaming down his face. Chapter 150. At that moment, countless images appeared in his mind. When he was a child, his father clumsily cooked and almost set the kitchen on fire. He raised him all by himself. When he was a teenager, he got into trouble in school, and his father sighed helplessly. He raised his hand high and gently put it down. Also, after he beat up that young master from Beijing, his father put down his dignity and humbly apologized to him. "Kid, it's not a holiday. Why are you kneeling?" Seeing this, Zhang Wanqing quickly helped Jiang Tian up. "It's good that you know how to work hard." Jiang Zhixing was also slightly moved. It seemed that Jiang Tian must have thought a lot during his time in Linzhou and matured a little. "Did you drink tonight? Qing'er, have some soup." Zhang Wanqing quickly went to the kitchen to get the hangover soup. The hangover soup was created by his mother. It was steaming beef brisket, onions, tomatoes, and potatoes. It was sprinkled with chopped green onions. It warmed the stomach and was very comfortable. Drinking the hangover soup, Jiang Tian was touched. His eyes were wet again. This was the taste that he had missed for 10,000 years. "Qing'er, how do you take care of your skin? Why is it better than a year ago?" Zhao Xueqing didn't drink that night. She only drank 2 mouthfuls of soup before being pulled aside by Zhang Wanqing. Zhang Wanqing liked Zhao Xueqing from the bottom of her heart. She didn't look like she was looking at her daughter-in-law at all. Instead, she looked like she was looking at her own daughter. After drinking the soup, Jiang Tian let Zhao Xueqing wash up and rest. Then he went to the study room with Jiang Zhixing to chat. Zhang Wanqing originally wanted to talk to Jiang Tian about going abroad, but the first thing that Jiang Tian said was, "Dad, I already know everything." "Dad, Mom, I already know the situation at home. Don't worry, I will solve everything." "Huh? You already know?" Zhang Wanqing was dumbfounded. Jiang Zhixing sighed and said, "I'm afraid it was Zhen Shuai and Tan Guangxiu, those two brats, who told him." Zhang Wanqing became worried the next moment. "Jiang Tian, don't be impulsive. The other party's legal procedures are very complete. If you hit someone or something, I'm afraid you'll have to bear legal responsibility." "I understand. I will use my own way to solve it. There will definitely be no problem." After saying that, Jiang Tian went to bed, which confused Jiang Zhixing and his wife. "I'm afraid this kid is just bragging. This problem is so complicated, how can he solve it?" Zhang Wanqing shook her head and smiled bitterly. No one knew a son better than his mother. Although Jiang Tian's nature was not bad, his aptitude and ability were ordinary. Even the old man was helpless in this predicament, not to mention Jiang Tian, a young lad. Anyway, he knows how to worry about his family now. This is also a progress. Jiang Zhixing revealed a gratified smile. The next day, while Jiang Tian was resting, a phone call woke Jiang Tian up. It was actually from Zhao Wuji. "What's the matter?" Jiang Tian asked calmly. "Something happened to the county's gardens. Many seedlings died. Thousands of mu of land. The initial investment is all gone. Everyone is suspecting that there's a problem with the feng shui." Zhao Wuji said, "This matter involves Uncle Jiang. The City Commission for Discipline Inspection suspects that Uncle Jiang accepted bribes from the Provincial Agricultural Research Institute and got the problematic seedlings. They're preparing to investigate him. Come and pick me up. We'll be there right away." Jiang Tian's heart skipped a beat and he quickly said. Jiang Tian remembered. In his previous life, it was precisely because of the problem with the seedlings in the gardens that the Commission for Discipline Inspection intervened to investigate his father. "My dad was a clean man and never accepted any gifts. However, the academician from the Provincial Agricultural Research Institute was my dad's classmate. He gave my dad a carton of cigarettes that contained 50,000 RMB. My dad didn't know about it, so he accepted it. However, the Commission for Discipline Inspection did not care whether he knew about it or not. They arrested his father just because of the 50,000 yuan. Thinking of this, Jiang Tian quickly got out of bed and found Jiang Zhixing, who was eating. "Dad, did you accept a carton of cigarettes from Uncle Yan Jianfan?" "Yes," Jiang Zhixing said carelessly. "We were old classmates in university and have been friends for decades. What's wrong with taking a carton of cigarettes from him? He even took mine." "Dad, there's something wrong with that carton of cigarettes." Jiang Tian scanned the cabinet with his divine sense and found the carton of cigarettes. Then he quickly tore it apart. "Why is there money in there? Did old Yan give it to you?" Zhang Wanqing exclaimed. "That's not right. We were the ones who asked old Yan for help with the garden project. Why would he give you money?" "I'm afraid old Yan doesn't know about it either," Jiang Zhixing frowned. "Many farmers and seedlings ask old Yan for help. I'm afraid they gave it to him. When I was in his office, he took it out of the cabinet and gave it to me. He had been in the system for many years and knew the stakes." He broke out in cold sweat. Fortunately, little Tian found it in time. Otherwise, if something happened in the future, it would be hard to explain. "I'll ask my secretary to send it to him immediately." With that, Jiang Zhixing picked up the carton of cigarettes and left. Not long after Jiang Zhixing left, Zhao Wuji arrived with a few gifts. He nodded and bowed. "Auntie, I knew Jiang Tian was back, so I came to see him." "Wuji, you're a rare guest. You don't have to take the gifts. It's good that you're here." Zhang Wanqing was surprised, but she still said happily. The secretary of the county committee, Zhao Junlin, had always been at odds with her husband. Especially after the garden project incident, he disliked Jiang Zhixing even more. Zhao Wuji was even more so. He was a local tycoon with a big business. Because his father was a high-ranking official, he was arrogant. Even when he met the couple, he usually ignored them. "It's fine, auntie. It's not anything valuable. Just accept it. I'm here to ask Jiang Tian to help me with something." Zhao Wuji put down the gifts and rubbed his hands. "Jiang Tian, let's go." "Let's go." Jiang Tian walked away. "This is too strange." Zhang Wanqing was puzzled as she looked at the backs of the two people leaving. How did her son suddenly find the problem with the carton of cigarettes? It was packaged properly, and no one could tell. And why did it seem like Zhao Wuji respected and even feared her son? This was too strange. On the way, Jiang Tian had a rough idea of what was going on based on his memories from his previous life and Zhao Wuji's explanation. The Ancient Rhyme Garden Center was a project jointly promoted by the county government and the Provincial Institute of Agricultural Sciences. The county government led the Finance Bureau and State-Owned Asset Supervision and Administration Commission to invest 100 million to set up an agricultural company. The Provincial Institute of Agricultural Sciences provided the seeds and technology, and the local farmers provided the land and labor. The main purpose of the project was to cultivate precious flowers and high-end bonsai. The Ancient Rhyme Garden Center was only a few thousand acres of land, but it had become the pillar of the county's industry. It was also the county government's greatest achievement in recent years. But recently, all the seedlings and bonsai had withered and died of diseases. The losses were severe, and the gardeners suspected that there was a problem with the seedlings. They held up banners and went to the county government to ask for an explanation. Some even went to Jinling and Beijing to ask for an explanation. The county government invited the experts from the Provincial Institute of Agricultural Sciences to solve the problem. After testing, they found no problems with the soil, water, ventilation, pests and diseases. Because of this matter, the leaders of the county were as anxious as ants on a hot pan. They were completely flustered. Someone suggested that the feng shui might have been damaged, and that was why the seedlings died. So, the county government invited many feng shui experts to take a look. After all, Zhao Wuji was the son of the county party secretary. He knew that this was related to his father's official position, so he had been paying close attention. When he saw Jiang Tian last night, he thought that Jiang Tian should be the same kind of person. So he pulled Jiang Tian over. "Oh, that's it? Don't worry, I will solve the problem." After hearing what Zhao Wuji said, Jiang Tian's face was calm. He closed his eyes and rested. Zhao Wuji was confident in Jiang Tian, so he didn't say anything else. The car sped all the way to a forest in the southern suburbs of the county. The Ancient Rhyme Garden Center was already crowded with people. There were cars parked outside the gate. Inside the garden, many government officials, agriculture experts, and a few feng shui experts were gathered together. They were pointing and talking. "Dad, I brought the expert to you." Zhao Wuji excitedly pulled Jiang Tian to a man standing in the middle and said excitedly, "Nonsense. Is this a place where you should be? We are working on the spot." Zhao Junlin was reading the report from the agriculture experts. When he saw Zhao Wuji, he said angrily, "Dad, I am not here to play. I am here to help you with your feng shui. Jiang Tian is a feng shui expert." Zhao Wuji was reprimanded until he shrunk his head. His face was full of fear, but he still smiled. "Jiang Tian, is Jiang Tian the feng shui master you were talking about?" Only now did Zhao Junlin glance at Jiang Tian, and he couldn't help being greatly disappointed. He berated, "What are you messing around for? Get out." Last night, his son came back and said that he met an expert who could control lightning and block a Mercedes-Benz with his body. Did you hear that? Was that something a normal person would say? He must have drunk too much. He didn't have much hope in the beginning. However, when he saw that his son's so-called expert was Jiang Tian, he was furious. He had watched Jiang Tian grow up, so he knew Jiang Tian very well. This brat had been fighting since he was young, skipping classes and getting into puppy love. He was as useless as his bastard son. He was simply a useless idiot. When it came to causing trouble for their parents, the two of them were the same. They were the two scourges of the county. Zhao Wuji was anxious when he saw that his father didn't care about Jiang Tian. You think you are so great just because you are the county party secretary? If you annoy Jiang Tian, he will kill you with a bolt of lightning. Jiang Tian pulled Zhao Wuji and said softly, "It's fine. Let's just watch." After walking a few steps, Jiang Tian suddenly said calmly, "Did you notice that the temperature here is a few degrees lower than other places? It really is. Alas, look, some places are frozen." Other than Zhao Wuji, no one paid attention to Jiang Tian. Zhao Wuji found it strange. In Qixia County, the temperature was relatively high in winter. Moreover, it was not yet winter. There were plastic sheds, so why would some of the ground be frozen? At that moment, an old man in a Taoist robe holding a compass suddenly said loudly, "I understand. This place is called Yin Convergence Land." Chapter 151. Master Su Hui. What do you mean by Yin Convergence? Everyone immediately surrounded the old man and asked curiously, "Look at this place. There's a deep lake in the north, an old well in the south, a mountain in the east where the purple qi doesn't come, and a Huai forest in the west where the Yin qi gathers. This is the standard Yin convergence." Master Su had a kind face, white hair, and a youthful complexion. He had the demeanor of an expert. He pointed and said calmly, "And now it's Ding Hainian. He's in charge of Yin. With the fusion of heaven and earth, it's natural for Yin qi to erupt and frost qi to gather." "I see." Zhao Junlin rubbed his hands and asked anxiously, "Master Su Hui, do you have a solution? If I can solve such a small problem, I wouldn't be called a master." Master Su Hui smiled confidently and said, "I will set up an array later to bring in the yang qi and make the 4 seasons as warm as spring. Then the ancient charm garden will be restored." "Really?" Hearing this, Zhao Junlin and the others were overjoyed. Master Su Hui started to talk about feng shui array, such as acupoint star, shaking dragon, barrier, branches, situation, qi, and so on. The terms he spoke were obscure and difficult to understand. Yet it just so happened to cause Zhao Junlin and the others to be shocked and intoxicated as they listened. "Dad, is what Master Su said reasonable?" In the crowd, a beautiful woman in her 20s pulled a middle-aged man and asked. She was wearing a round neck sweater and casual pants with a white windbreaker. Her plump breasts were pushed up and down by the tight sweater. Her face was as white as jade, and her eyelashes were long. She was wearing a pair of rimless glasses on her nose. She exuded an air of elegance. The middle-aged man was Yen Jianfan, the vice president of the Provincial Academy of Agricultural Sciences. He was a botanist and an academician who enjoyed a special allowance from the Government Administration Council. He was a Changjiang scholar and had countless disciples. The one who asked the question was his daughter, Yen Di, who was also a PhD student at the Provincial Academy of Agricultural Sciences. Different professions are like different mountains. I don't understand what he said, but feng shui is not simply superstition. A trace of contemplation appeared on Yen Jianfan's face as he solemnly said, "The so-called feng shui can be understood as the choice and creation of the environment, reflecting the interaction between man and nature. There are struggles and compromises, and it deeply reflects the ancient idea of the unity of man and nature." The ancient traditional feng shui of our country has a deep connection with the hot topic of development and environment. In many aspects, it also coincides with the environmental science of Western modern architecture. It is reasonable and scientific. The group of doctoral and master's students stared at him without blinking. They pricked up their ears, not wanting to miss a single word. Yen Jianfan could be said to be a prominent figure in the country's agriculture and forestry field. Every word of his contained extremely profound academic thoughts, which were greatly beneficial to their studies and research. America's Golden Gate Bridge is known as the Suicide Bridge. Ever since it was built, more than 230 people have committed suicide by jumping into the river. In the past 10 years, there have been more than 50 cases. Why? Yen Jianfan first threw out a question and then said, "First of all, the view there is very wide. People standing on it have a sense of powerlessness and forget about the world. and the bridge is suspended in the air. The steel structure makes people feel a slight tremor. It makes people unconsciously feel empty and unstable under their feet. Psychologically, they will also feel helpless. If a person has negative emotions such as loss, depression, anxiety, and so on, it is difficult to be relieved. The environment gives people a psychological hint that as long as they jump, everything will be free. So, the environment will affect people's psychology, and then affect people's behavior, leading to different results and fates. Yendi's wise eyes flickered and she suddenly understood. Originally, she didn't think much of Master Su Hui, but now she couldn't help but be convinced. It's the same for animals and plants. Feng Shui is a stable environment, and then it has an impact on them. Yan Jianfan nodded approvingly. Feng Shui is the same as traditional Chinese medicine. It is an empirical science. It has been accumulated for thousands of years, and has its own uniqueness. Master Su Hui is an important figure in the Southern Sect's Feng Shui field. He has solved many difficult problems. If it weren't for him this time, our project would have really been ruined. After listening to her father's words, Yendi couldn't help but respect Master Su Hui even more. Her eyes shone with admiration. First, fill up the ancient well in the north. At this time, Su Hui had finished his demonstration and waved his hand. A hook machine was already on standby. At this moment, it immediately drove to the side of the ancient well and began to dig and fill it. Sai, Master Su changed the Feng Shui personally. This time, the problem of the ancient garden is solved. As long as these seedlings and bonsai come to life, all the problems will be solved. Where are the firecrackers? Secretary, let's set off the firecrackers. Zhao Junlin and the other county leaders were very excited and happy. Their faces were full of excitement. Stop! Su Hui is just spouting nonsense. Right at this moment, a cold shout suddenly sounded out. Everyone jumped in fright and turned their heads in unison. They saw a young man standing on a green stone with his hands behind his back, looking at Su Hui with disdain. Why are you still here? When Zhao Junlin saw that it was Jiang Tian who spoke, he couldn't help but be furious. He pointed at Zhao Wuji and scolded. Bastard, hurry up and take him out of here. Don't you know who is here? Do you have the right to speak? Zhao Wuji was in a dilemma and felt wronged. In the end, he straightened his neck and said defiantly, Dad, he really is a spellcaster. Can't you trust me just this once? Sigh, Secretary Zhao, don't worry. Why lower yourself to the same level as a young man? Master Su Hui advised Zhao Junlin. Then he frowned at Jiang Tian and asked, Little brother, what do you mean by that? Your demonstration is wrong from the beginning to the end. If you continue to act recklessly, not only will you not improve the Feng Shui, but you will also turn this garden into a dead land where not even a blade of grass can grow. Jiang Tian said calmly. I'm wrong? Hearing that, Su Hui couldn't believe it. He was so angry that his nose was crooked. He sneered and said, How can I be wrong about such a simple question? How do you know about my background? Lingnan's Feng Shui master, Taoist Master Hong Yi, is my master. I have also received guidance from Senior Wei Xiaofeng 3 times. In 2001, Tianlong Corporation was building an office building. Accidents happen frequently. I was the one who called the wind and summoned the rain and changed the destiny. Everything was safe and sound. In 2002, an evil spirit appeared in Jiqing Entertainment's director Zhao's family. The whole family was seriously ill. I used the plum blossom divination to shake the acupoints and force the evil spirit away, allowing director Zhao's family to recover. In 2005, I once helped Bai Chou Fei change the Feng Shui to seek luck and avoid disaster. Su Hui gave many examples, all of which were major events that caused huge waves in the world of Feng Shui. Master Su Hui is really a godly person. Who does this kid think he is? How dare he provoke Master Su Hui? Everyone present respected him even more. Their eyes were filled with reverence, and they were even more disdainful and contemptuous of Jiang Tian. Have you read the ancient Jinga of geography? Do you know the Lurin theory of fate? Do you know what the 5 essences of green bag is? Do you know the 52nd floor of the compass? Su Hui asked in a loud voice. He took a step forward and asked a few questions. He had already come to the center of the field. He looked straight at Jiang Tian and asked aggressively, "At such a young age, I'm afraid you haven't even read the Book of Changes. You dare to talk nonsense here and question this master. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth." Pucci. Yindi looked at Jiang Tian for a long time. At this time, she suddenly laughed out. She covered her mouth and said with a smile, "Dad, isn't this the kid from Uncle Zhang's family? When he was in the second year of high school, he was the last in the class and asked me to make up lessons for him. But, humph." At this point, 2 blushes appeared on her pretty face, and a trace of disdain flashed through her sparkling beautiful eyes. "But what, senior sister?" A junior student who was a graduate student next to her asked curiously. "But he peeked at me when I was bathing. My mother found out and kicked him out. In the end, he had no one to make up lessons for him. He only scored around 300 in the college entrance exam and studied in a third-tier university." Yindi covered her mouth and said softly, "You're a girl. How dare you say such things to others?" Yin Jianfan glared at his daughter, seemingly dissatisfied. "If he has the nerve to do it, why can't I say it?" Yindi said angrily with puffed-up lips. "Damn, so he's a bad student. Even Mr. Yen can't solve such a complicated problem. What right does he have to interrupt?" Everyone was already dissatisfied with Jiang Tian's questioning of Master Su Hui. At this moment, they couldn't help but look at Jiang Tian with disdain. "I haven't read what you said, and I don't understand it." In the face of Su Hui's questioning and the ridicule of the crowd, Jiang Tian lowered his eyes, as if he was completely stumped. "Haha, look, you haven't even read the Book of Changes and you dare to pretend to be a feng shui master here." Everyone's faces were filled with disdain and disdain. They looked at Jiang Tian as if they were looking at an idiot. This kid has always liked to be in the limelight since he was young. Does he not know that this is a place for him to be in the limelight? He's just looking for trouble. Yindi said with disgust and disdain. "Jiang Tian, don't you know spells?" Zhao Wuji had thought that Jiang Tian was a spell master, but he was floored when he heard what Jiang Tian said. Could it be that it wasn't a spell, but something else? Was it genetic mutation? Was it advanced technology? Was it superpowers? Was it Thor, Spider-Man, or Iron Man? "Zhao Wuji, you bastard, get him out of here. Don't embarrass me here." Zhao Junlin was so angry that his body trembled. He pointed at the door and roared angrily. The leaders of the municipal party committee were present. His son had brought such a useless piece of trash here. He had lost all his face. "I don't understand what you're talking about, and I don't want to." Jiang Tian's expression did not change at all in the face of the crowd's mockery. He said calmly, "But your Shifu Hongyi is not even fit to carry my shoes. As for Wei Shuofeng, he was defeated by me." Arrogant bastard. Ignorant. Hearing this, Su Huijian was so angry that her face turned red, her whole body trembled, and her lungs almost exploded. Reverend Hong Yi and old immortal Wei are both godlike figures in the heavens. How could they be mentioned by you? Su Hui leaped 3 feet high into the air, pointed at Jiang Tian and yelled furiously, "Bastard, get the hell out of here, or I'll teach you a lesson. I'm not going to look at this feng shui anymore. Get out." The director of the municipal party committee office called a few policemen and began to chase Jiang Tian away. "If you continue to cause trouble here, we'll arrest you." "Sai, you guys just don't believe me. Fine, I'll show you what real spells are." Jiang Tian faintly smiled. He slowly raised his jade white hand and suddenly waved his fingers. "You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.